Chapter 897. Just like that, Yin Feng exploded with one kick. His outcome was no different from Shu Han and the others. In fact, it was even more severe. Broken rocks littered the ground, looking very tragic. Everyone was dumbfounded. An 8th layer star venerate could still be killed in an instant. This was too incredible. Furthermore, it was such a tough rock race, yet he could still be killed in an instant. This was unbelievable. This strength is too strong. That's the rock race. That's right. I saw a fight earlier. A cultivator kept using his weapon to hack at the rock race, but he did not even leave a mark. His toughness is simply too scary. In the same cultivation realm, he is basically invincible. However, no matter how invincible he is, he still exploded with one kick. Could he have already broken through to the Earth Monarch level? Impossible. If he was an Earth Monarch, we would have sensed it long ago. At most, he would be a 6th layer star venerate. He could not possibly be an Earth Monarch. One by one, they wanted to continue to challenge Tianyin, but they immediately felt as if a bucket of cold water was poured on them, and their hearts froze. Who would dare to challenge Tianyin now? Whoever dared to challenge him would end up like the other 3, lying on the ground obediently. They were not dead, but they were severely injured and could not even get up. It looked like they would not be able to get out of bed easily without recuperating for a few years. Tianyin never showed mercy. If not for the fact that he could not kill, they would have become 3 corpses long ago. Since he could not kill them, he could only use the most violent force to break their bones and meridians. It was that simple. Is there anyone else who wants to challenge me? Tianyin looked at the crowd coldly. Under his cold gaze, some cultivators could not help but take a step back, not daring to get close to him. Just his aura alone frightened them. He was like an unsheathed divine sword, showing off its sharpness. Soon after, all of them fell silent. One of the women who was meditating at the side raised her head and glanced over, but didn't say anything. She had lasted the longest, which proved that her strength was extraordinary. However, she did not intend to challenge Tianyin. She only sized him up curiously. Brother Yi, you are amazing. Lei Jingyu came over excitedly and patted his shoulder. The rock tribe is so powerful, but they were still destroyed by your kick. If it were me, I wouldn't be able to kick them at all. Lei Jingyu's strength was not bad, but his cultivation was still a far cry from Yanfeng's. Gu Yanlong walked over, looked at them and said, "If no one wants to continue fighting, then I now announce that all of you have officially become disciples of the Heavenly Mandate Divine Realm. Those who persist for more than 7 days will directly become core disciples." Those who persisted for more than 7 days would become core disciples. Each and every one of them looked at Tianyin and the other mysterious girl with envy. Even if they did not know the benefits of becoming a core disciple, they could imagine that it was definitely much better than becoming an official disciple. As for those who persist for more than 5 days, they will be able to become inner palace disciples. Their futures will also be limitless. Gu Yanlong smiled at them. The harvest this time was truly not small. After that, Gu Yanlong led them through a long walkway and arrived at another hall. However, the hall outside was different. There were many cultivators coming and going here, and they were all accepting tasks at the side. This was actually a task hall. If one wanted to earn contribution points, they had to complete tasks here. This was basically something that everyone had. If they did not do this, how could they strengthen their forces? They did not want to raise a group of freeloaders. If they did not do this, they would run out of resources sooner or later. Official disciples, go over there to get your token. Inner palace disciples who persist for more than 5 days, come over here to get your token. Core disciples, come over here to get your token. Gu Yanlong led them to get their tokens. Each of them received their corresponding token, which had their names engraved on it. After getting his token, Tianyin saw that his token was made of a special material, and it was a very precious material. This token was a large storage space. There was an extremely large space inside, and it could hold many things. The key was that when he got it, he could immediately sense the situation of the surrounding tokens. He could roughly feel how far away they were. Your token has the ability to identify your own people. Whether it is for rescue or doing tasks together, you can do it through this token, Gu Yanlong said in a deep voice. This is your identification. If you lose your token, no matter what level you are, you will be kicked out of the heavenly mandate divine realm. The token is equivalent to your life. If you lose it, you will lose your life. Of course, if someone deliberately disappears and is found, they will be executed directly by capital punishment. Everyone's expression changed. If they lost their token, wouldn't they be kicked out? Wasn't this condition a bit too strict? Yi Tianyan did not think there was anything too strict about it. Unless they were dead, they would not lose their token. If they lost it like this, they would indeed be too ashamed to continue staying in this force. Then you two come with me. The others will take you to the corresponding places. Gu Yanlong gestured for Yi Tianyan and the mysterious woman to follow him. Brother Yi, congratulations on becoming a core disciple. But if you leave like this, I don't know when we will meet again. Lei Jingyu stopped Yi Tianyan. Although they had just met not long ago, they were all humans. They were all discriminated against here. It would be best if they could stay in the same place. However, core disciples and inner palace disciples definitely wouldn't stay in the same place. We will, but no matter what, we must not forget the dignity of humans. Yi Tianyan smiled at him. Yes, the dignity of the human race. Lei Jingyu patted his chest. No matter what, he could not lose his dignity. After saying that, they separated, and Gu Yanlong led them out of the hall. Walking out of the hall, the outside world was filled with many bustling buildings. There were many cultivators coming and going in the distance, but their cultivation was not high. Most of them were at the Spirit King stage, which meant that they were all outer disciples, and they were all working hard. When they walked forward, Gu Yanlong turned to look at the mysterious woman and said happily, Yurong, your result this time is not bad. Your father will be very happy. Not bad, but I did not reach the 10 days record, and I am not the first. Gu Yurong said indifferently. She did not show any surprise. Instead, she looked a little disappointed. At least you have reached the core disciple level. Gu Yanlong smiled. It's all thanks to your guidance, uncle. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been able to reach the standard. Gu Yurong's eyes were filled with gratitude. Uncle. Chapter 898. Yi Tianyan looked up and down at the two of them, and when he looked carefully, he found that they really have a little relationship. For example, Gu Yanlong had the bloodline of the Dragon Clan. As for this mysterious woman, she also had the bloodline of the Dragon Clan. However, he did not expect her to be from the outside. He thought she would be born in the heavenly mandate divine realm, and the result would be better. It could only mean that they were of the same origin. Even if Gu Yanlong was the captain here, he did not have the power to move his clansmen here. The star power in the divine realm was very rich, and it was much better to cultivate here than in the outside world of Fanyu. The outside world absorbed spiritual power, while here absorbed star power. The difference was obviously different. No, these are all your own efforts. I just gave you a little guidance. Compared to me in the past, you have better results. If you continue to work hard, you will have a chance to become an elder in the future. Gu Yanlong was very satisfied with his niece. I will work harder. Gu Yurong nodded heavily, her eyes full of determination. Gu Yanlong turned to look at Yi Tianyan and said, I believe you can see that this is my niece Gu Yurong. You two should get to know each other. From now on, you will be in the same sect. Take care of each other. Hello, I am Gu Yurong. Take care of me in the future. Gu Yurong bowed and nodded politely. Well, my name is Yi Tianyan. Take care of me in the future. Yi Tianyan smiled politely. At least they did not look down on humans like those other races. After a simple introduction, Gu Yanlong brought them to the teleportation array outside the main hall. He took them up and said, When you go to the main hall where the core disciples are, you must pay attention to everything. There are many crouching tigers and hidden dragons inside. Especially Yi Tianyan. I have to say that this time you have made a record, and you will indeed be valued. But remember, do not be too complacent. Your level is very good, and your future is limitless. But as you saw just now, many people want to step on you. This record of yours is your strength, but it's also your trouble. Keep a low profile when you get there. It will be of great benefit to you. Gu Yanlong reminded him earnestly like an elder. Lord Gu, I will. However, Lord Gu, it seems that you don't really dislike humans? Yi Tianyan was a little curious about this. After all, everyone was full of discrimination towards him just now. It's a long story. In short, I don't hate the human race. I have friends among the human race. But they aren't here for the time being. I don't know where they went. Gu Yanlong shook his head, a look of nostalgia in his eyes. Back then, we took the examination together, and became disciples here. Later on, they did leave this place and chose to travel further away. Let's not talk about this. I almost forgot that this is a gift for you too. Gu Yanlong took out 2 tokens and handed them to the 2 of them. He explained, these are the selection tokens. After you report to the core hall, you can go to the selection hall and choose the treasure you like. It's a greeting gift. This token was won by Gu Yanlong from the bet with Tri Yuan. The other token was a greeting gift for his niece. Selection hall? Gu Yurong was very excited. She said, thank you, uncle. Yi Tianyan was not familiar with it. Seeing Gu Yurong's excitement, he knew that it was not simple. Thank you, Lord Gu. Yi Tianyan also expressed his gratitude. You don't need to thank me. You fought for it yourself. After all, you won it from the bet with Tri Yuan. You won it from the bet, so you fought for it yourself. Gu Yanlong said with a smile. No matter what, Lord Gu is taking care of me by giving me the selection token. Yi Tianyan said with a smile. Alright, let's not talk too much. I can get a lot of benefits from recruiting a record-breaking existence like you. As a matter of fact, I also got some benefits from you. You don't need to thank me. Gu Yanlong reached out and patted him on the shoulder. He smiled faintly and said, You two go ahead. I'll see you off here. I can't go inside. They nodded. When they were about to leave, Gu Yanlong thought of something. He turned to them and added, By the way, be careful when you go to the selection hall. It's a rare opportunity. If you can, improve yourselves first. You need luck and opportunities there. Of course, the most important thing is your own strength. After that, he turned around and left, not wanting to stay any longer. His responsibility was to manage the passage there. He couldn't interfere with the situation here, so he didn't need to go in. After Gu Yanlong left, Gu Yurong didn't say anything to Yi Tianyan. She just walked in with a straight face. It seemed that she had nothing to talk to him about. They were not familiar with each other. Gu Yanlong was just being polite when he said that he would take care of her. As for what Gu Yurong would do, it was her own business. At least for now, it seemed that Gu Yurong wasn't so enthusiastic. Yi Tianyan didn't say much to her. He didn't want to be embarrassed and have nothing to talk about. After they walked out of the teleportation matrix, they walked forward. Before they reached the core hall, they could see a huge palace in front of them. It was not so much a palace, but a huge city, a city that stretched as far as the eye could see. This place doesn't seem to belong to the same place anymore, does it? Yi Tianyan looked around and felt that this place was completely different. They were not on the same planet. It seems that you don't know much about the heavenly mandate divine realm. Gu Yurong glanced at him and said while walking forward, There are countless planets in the heavenly mandate divine realm, and there is only one city on each planet. The place we were at before was called the Guardian Star, and now we are at the Nuclear Star. It is a place for core disciples to live. Of course, there are many other planets, which are equivalent to cities. You can go to them through the teleportation matrix or the spirit ship. Gu Yurong didn't seem to be close to him, but she was still very serious when she answered. As expected of the divine realm, this is really a big deal. One planet and one city. He had just searched around with his spiritual consciousness, and found that it was many times larger than the mortal realm. There was only one city on such a big planet. This was simply too extravagant. Wouldn't the area that each person lived in be terrifyingly large? The huge city in front of him was the best proof. Chapter 899. Identity Token. As soon as Yi Tianyan and Gu Yurong walked over, the guard immediately intercepted them. He stared at them fiercely, and an intimidating aura immediately pressed down. This was a first refinement Earthlord, and he was guarding the door here. Although he was a first refinement Earthlord, Etianyan knew that these cultivators had basically reached their limit. It was quite difficult for them to move forward. They only served as guards to gain some contribution points so that they could exchange for other things to improve their cultivation. Etianyan and Guyurong both took out the core disciple token. The guard took it and checked it. When he saw the token in Etianyan's hand, he was immediately dumbfounded. You lasted for 14 days? The guard looked at the information on the token in disbelief. Not to mention the guard. Even the person who made the token for Etianyan wondered if he had seen it wrong. How could there be someone who lasted for 14 days? The highest record was only 10 days. Now he had exceeded the highest record by 4 days. How could he not be shocked? In the end, Gu Yanlong provided evidence. Only then did the guard believe Gu Yanlong's words. Otherwise he really would not believe it. That evidence was the recording disc, which could completely record the scene. There was basically no way to fake it. Every time, Gu Yanlong had to record it and provide it when making the token. If there was a particularly outstanding one, he had to submit it to the elder level. Otherwise, who would be willing to believe Gu Yanlong's words? Yes, what's the problem? This was not the first time Etianyan had seen such an expression. Was it so shocking? So many cultivators, and only one exceeded 10 days? However, Gu Yanlong's target was the heavenly mandate realm. As for whether there were other divine realms that exceeded the other number, it was another matter. At least in the heavenly mandate realm, only Etianyan had exceeded 10 days. No problem. Please come in. The guard's attitude was completely different. His eyes were full of admiration, which was a great change from before. This made Etianyan shake his head. If he had kept a low profile, would he have been able to enjoy such treatment? Beside her, Guyurong sighed deeply. How she wished that she was the one to receive such treatment. If she could get such treatment, she would be able to bring her family over. Unfortunately, it wasn't her. After the two of them entered, they had only taken a few steps when someone immediately rushed out from inside. The first to come out were two old men. Their hair was messy, but their eyes were filled with golden light. They looked at Etianyan from head to toe as if they were looking at a treasure. It's unbelievable that this human brat can persist for 14 days. Yeah, it's unbelievable. Very few people can achieve such a result in 14 days. I didn't expect one to appear in our heavenly mandate divine realm. Let me take this kid as my disciple. No, old man, let me take him as my disciple. Bah. Become my disciple. My level is higher than yours. Bullshit, you think your level is higher than mine? Do you want to compare who's better now? The two of them had just come out and immediately began to quarrel. When the disciples who were passing by heard the content of the quarrel, they were all dumbfounded. What's going on? Persisting for 14 days? What thing lasted for 14 days? Could it be that the baptism of the divine realm lasted for 14 days? How is this possible? The record has always been 10 days. How could it have lasted for 14 days? But the two elders said so. It can't be false. God. A monster that lasted for 14 days, and it's a human? A human? How is this possible? The worst race can actually last for 14 days. For a moment, the sound of discussion exploded. Some of it was transmitted to the core hall, letting them know that a monster had come. But after everyone heard it, they felt that it was unbelievable. How could there be such a monster in the human race? Logically speaking, it was impossible. But why would the two elders lie? Especially when they were fighting to become their disciples. This was a situation that had never been seen before. Unless one made it into the top 10 of the core hall, one would not be qualified to be accepted as a disciple by the two elders. Moreover, it was just a chance to be in the top 10 or top 3, but it was not absolute. Now that they had just arrived at the core hall, they were already fighting so hard. One by one, they came out to take a look. They wanted to see what kind of god could actually persist for so long. In just a moment, the entrance of the core hall was filled with people. There were at least a few hundred people here. These were all people who had persisted for 7 days. None of them were ordinary people. It was just that they didn't expect so many people to persist for 7 days. Tianyan looked at the two old men in front of him, and was very surprised. Their cultivation had actually reached the level of the Lord of Heaven. The key was that they were both Lord of Heaven, and they were at the same level, but the combat power they displayed was completely different. Yu Yanglong, Lord of Heaven level 3 cultivation, has a powerful and pure yang energy, can burn all objects. Weakness, restrained by yin and cold objects. Overall combat power, 250,000 star power. Ming Yueqing, Lord of Heaven level 3 cultivation, has a powerful and pure yin and cold energy, can freeze all objects. Weakness, restrained by yin and cold objects. Overall combat power, 220,000 star power. The two were mutually restraining existences, but the key was that there was such a huge difference in combat power, which made him feel very strange. This was a difference of 30,000 star power. If converted, it would be 3 trillion combat power. So there is such a thing. Tianyan saw the detailed content with the appraisal eye, which was specially marked in small words. Yu Yanglong broke through to the 8th refinement Earth Monarch, while Ming Yueqing broke through to the 7th refinement Earth Monarch. Different levels of breakthrough, but the difference is so shocking? Tianyan was a little surprised. It seemed that he had to carefully understand this aspect. There were too many things he was not clear about. Since he came to this divine domain, he had to carefully understand it. Forget it, no more quarreling. Let him choose who his master is that okay? Alright, that's a good idea. Let him choose. The two turned to look at Tianyan, stared at him and asked, say it, who do you want to choose as your master? When the surrounding people saw the situation, they were so jealous that they almost exploded. Why could they choose their own master? They were chosen, and they might not even be chosen. Wasn't the difference a little too big? Chapter 900. The two incomparably powerful heavenly monarchs stared at Tianyan. With their terrifying combat power, they could easily crush Tianyan with just a finger. After his cultivation increased, his combat power was really explosive. 250,000 star power, and that was under normal circumstances. If he were to unleash all his star power, wouldn't he be able to reach 300,000 star power? Just thinking about it is terrifying. He can probably destroy the 3 realms with a flip of his hand, right? When Tianyan was in the 3 realms, he already felt that a divine king could destroy the 3 realms. In fact, it was almost the same. Although he could not destroy the 3 realms with a flip of his hand, he could still destroy it with a little effort. As for breaking through to the level of a Lord of Heaven, he would be an existence that could completely crush the 3 realms with a flip of his hand. Destroying a world with a punch was not a joke. He then looked at the 2 Lord of Heaven and smiled. How about this? Both of you become my masters. Wouldn't that be perfect? The 2 of them were stunned. The others were even more dumbfounded. Some even started scolding him. This kid is too arrogant. He's just breaking a record and he wants to choose 2 masters. That's right. It would be a joke if he angered the 2 masters. Is he sure he can accept 2 masters? What a joke. What an idiot. He's just a human, and yet he's so arrogant. I really can't stand him. If the 2 elders weren't here, I would really challenge him. Every single one of them was filled with jealousy and dissatisfaction. The fact that he was a human to begin with was already enough to make them feel dissatisfied. Now he was even so arrogant and had chosen 2 masters. They were unhappy, but Tianyan would not be satisfied. He had just arrived and definitely needed the 2 masters to guide him. They were the Lord of Heaven. If he had 2 masters, he would have a stronger backing. He was not a fool. There was no need to throw them away and say that he didn't need masters. Even if he would surpass them in the future, he was much weaker than the 2 elders now. With them as his backing, he would definitely be able to do things. The 2 elders looked at him with furrowed brows and said, "Brat, aren't you a bit too greedy? Looks like you don't know about our situation. Our attributes are completely incompatible. Either we cultivate the power of ice with him, or we cultivate the power of fire with me. The 2 are completely incompatible. Being able to cultivate even one of them is already very good." That's right, you can be arrogant if you have some ability, but you're wrong. He is too greedy. How can he cultivate such a Tao heart? Their impression of Yi Tianyun immediately plummeted. Sometimes, people shouldn't be too greedy. If they were too greedy, problems would easily arise. More haste, less speed. Everything had to be done slowly. The cultivators around them immediately revealed mocking expressions. They were very happy to see such a scene. It was obvious that the two masters were unhappy. If he had chosen any of the teachers, he would have offended one of them at most. However, if he had been too greedy now, he would have offended both of them. Haha, are you an idiot? This is going to be fun. I've offended the two elders. Sure enough, stupidity depends on the race. That's right. Let's see how he answers. He doesn't please either side. He's really too stupid. They felt that Yi Tianyun was really an idiot. Especially when they heard the two elders' words. They laughed so hard that their stomachs hurt. They wished that the two elders would give up on Yi Tianyun and not take him as a disciple. Gu Yurong shook her head in disappointment. Sure enough, he became arrogant after obtaining some results. She felt that it was a pity. If this continued, he would be crippled sooner or later. Elders, this junior can cultivate two kinds of flames. My foundation is not bad. That's why I thought of asking the two elders to become this junior's master. It's not that this junior is greedy. It's just that this junior can cultivate like this. Yi Tianyun's expression did not change. He still maintained a faint smile. Everything was under his control. What? You can cultivate two kinds of flames? The two elders looked at each other. Yu Yonglong frowned and said, Yin and Yang flames cannot coexist. Are you sure you can coexist? Or should I say, the flames he cultivates are all ordinary? Yi Tianyun didn't use his mouth to explain. Instead, he raised his left hand and gently opened it. With a whoosh sound, the immortal fire rose up, causing the surrounding temperature to rise sharply. Immediately, he opened his right hand again. With a whoosh sound, the heavenly Yin fire also rushed out, causing the surrounding temperature to plummet. One hot and one cold, two extreme flames. Especially when they were upgraded to high-rank heavenly fire, which belonged to the max level. Previously, when he was refining tools, he had already upgraded it to the max level. It can be said that it was completely impossible to upgrade it. Even if it wasn't at the max level before, he used his proficiency to smash it to the max level. After all, these two kinds of flames belong to the high level. If he could upgrade it to the max level, he would do so. For him, refining tools and alchemy were of great help. Heavenly Yin fire was a very good choice for alchemy. It was even better than the immortal fire. After Yi Tianyun released the two kinds of flames, he also let the two kinds of flames overlap without any conflict. The surrounding people were dumbfounded. They couldn't believe their eyes. They all knew about these two kinds of flames. Even if the name was different, the effect was absolutely clear. What? Heavenly Yin fire and immortal fire, two kinds of flames. Yu Yonglong and Ming Yueqing were both dumbfounded. They felt that it was inconceivable. These two kinds of flames were mutually exclusive. Yet they both existed in the same person. In fact, even if they were mutually exclusive, it was impossible for one side to be quite strong. This would easily cause a conflict, which could lead to an explosion. This kind of situation was not unheard of. Therefore, it was basically impossible to see two kinds of flames that were mutually exclusive. Otherwise, the two of them wouldn't feel dissatisfied. Because this matter was impossible, when Yi Tianyun said that he wanted them to become his master, they felt very unhappy. I don't know, two elders, can I become your disciple like this? Yi Tianyun looked at their shocked expression and felt quite satisfied. This was all within his expectations. Others also reacted. Their hearts were filled with shock. The previous ridicule had turned into shock. But even more so, they couldn't believe it. They even suspected that their eyes were playing tricks on them. This is not a problem at all. It's really a miracle. How did you do it? You actually cultivated two kinds of Fan Yu extreme flames to this level. If you let the two of us cultivate you, you may become the first powerhouse to have dual extreme ice and fire energy. Chapter 901. Ahem, I don't know if the two elders have any objections to becoming this junior's master? Do you think this junior is just talking big? This junior is not talking nonsense. I just think that if I want to have some achievements in this area, I would like to try it out. I just don't know if it's possible. Yi Tianyun's tone was neither servile nor overbearing, without the slightest bit of arrogance. He was completely a young man who loved to cultivate. Of course. We weren't too clear just now and thought that you were biting off more than you could chew, but it turns out you have a special ability in this area. Yu Yanglong was pleasantly surprised. He immediately turned to Ming Yueqing and said, "Old Ming, should we teach him together?" "Of course, no problem. I haven't been so excited in a long time." Ming Yueqing was pleasantly surprised. Not only did he create a record, but he also has such a special ability. If I don't accept him as a disciple, I will regret it for the rest of my life. The two of them were more excited than the other. It was as if they had encountered a top treasure, and it was even more exciting than a top treasure. After all, treasures could not grow, but people could. As they grew stronger, all treasures would fall to the side. The nearby Gu Yurong looked at Yi Tianyun as if she had seen a ghost. She was closer, so how could she not feel the power of the two flames? Originally, they thought that Yi Tianyun was too arrogant, but in the end, they discovered that they had misunderstood, and misunderstood very deeply. This is impossible. He actually has dual flames, and they even restrain each other. Bah, what's so great about this? He just happened to have a bit of luck. Maybe his body will explode in the end. Haha, this is really hard to say. Those who cultivate dual attributes can explode everywhere. Their tone was filled with jealousy. They thought that since Yi Tianyun cultivated dual attributes, he might be able to persist for now, but there was a possibility that his body would explode in the future. At that time, all the resources they had invested into him would be wasted, and that would be a huge loss. Of course, although they said this, they didn't dare to say it to the two elders face to face. They were both so excited, and if they tried to pour cold water on them, they would probably be thrown out. Disciple greets two masters. Yi Tianyun smiled and bowed. He had recognized these two masters just like that. How could he not want such a cheap master? Even though he had the system, he still needed a lot of resources. If he could get the help of two powerful Lord of Heaven, it would be hard for him not to become stronger. Although you could level up by killing monsters, don't forget that there were other ways to level up. For example, consuming elixirs or something. Perhaps it would be like the soul accumulating pill, which could provide explosive experience. Most importantly, he was unfamiliar with this place, so he could use this opportunity to familiarize himself with the situation here. With a backer behind him, killing monsters would be much easier. Good. The two elders were all smiles as they dragged Yi Tianyun inside. Let's go. Follow us inside. We can start preparing for the strengthening training soon. Your immortal flame and heavenly Yin flame are both at the level of Fan Yu. The true God domain flame has reached the level of demonic flame. After saying that, Yu Yanglong stretched out his hand and a flame gushed out from his palm. This flame was not red, but a white flame. The moment the flame appeared, the surrounding temperature immediately rose by hundreds of degrees. If not for their cultivation being not low, they would have been directly burned to ashes. White flame bonefire. Reincarnation level high-grade flame. One of the 10 great demonic flames. It has an overbearing scorching flame that can burn all objects. Special effect. Greatly increases the success rate of refining and alchemy. Reincarnation level flame. The grades here were no longer limited to heaven level. Above heaven level was reincarnation level. Generally speaking, the levels were reincarnation level, heavenly Tao level, heavenly God level, monarch level. This was applicable to the fire level, and it could also be applied to the weapon level. It was basically unified. Whether it was martial arts, flames, or weapons, they were all based on this standard. Above the heaven grade was the reincarnation grade. Above the divine grade was also the reincarnation grade. Yes, there is also my flame. Ming Yueqing also stretched out his hand. A green flame emerged from his palm and floated above his palm. The surroundings immediately began to freeze. The temperature dropped by hundreds of degrees, freezing the entire area. When the two flames of different attributes came into contact, a layer of mist quickly appeared between the layers. The ground began to burn. This was still under the situation of suppression. If it was not suppressed, the surrounding disciples, including Yi Tianyan, would have been quickly burned to ashes. The Lord of Heaven's cultivation was not a joke. He could easily crush them. Underworld devouring flame. Reincarnation level high-grade flame, one of the 10 great demonic flames. It has the power of extreme cold. It can freeze all objects or directly turn them into powder. Special effect. Greatly increases the success rate of refining pills. The 2 great demonic flames were owned by them. In terms of grade, they were much stronger than the immortal flame. The immortal flame belonged to the Fanyu flame. It could only be regarded as an ordinary flame. It was not at the level of a demonic flame. However, there was no need to worry now. The 2 of them naturally had a way to increase the power of the flame. They could even replace it with their own demonic flame. However, it was definitely not easy. They had to be careful. Yi Tianyun's eyes lit up. He was pleasantly surprised. No problem. We will listen to the 2 masters. The others were about to explode with jealousy. Gu Yurong bit her lips. She didn't know what to say. She clenched her small hands and stood silently at the side. She looked lonely, as if she had been left out. It should be said that from the beginning, no one had paid attention to her. By the way, 2 masters, this is my friend. Can I take her with me? Yi Tianyan didn't forget to pull Gu Yurong. It wasn't that he had a good impression of Gu Yurong. It was that Gu Yanlong and the others didn't discriminate against humans. They even had a good impression of humans. He felt that he should take care of them. After all, Gu Yanlong had taken care of him. At least he wouldn't discriminate against him. If he went to the tree shaft, he would probably be kicked out before he could enter. The 2 of them looked at their disciple meaningfully. It was as if they were looking at their disciple's woman. Yu Yanglong smiled. Sure. Little girl, come with us. I believe your results won't be bad if you can join our core hall. Thank you, elders. Gu Yurong's eyes lit up. She wasn't stubborn to refuse. She came here to increase her strength or status. She would be a fool to refuse Yi Tianyun's good intentions. Chapter 902. As soon as they entered the main hall, a few youths immediately stood up and respectfully bowed to the 2 elders. Elder Yu, Elder Ming, please don't be anxious. The newcomers have just joined the core palace, and they still need to go through the welcoming ceremony. Don't forget this. Their cultivation was not low. All of them were at the peak of Star Monarch 8th or 9th layer. Among them, there were even 1st refinement or 2nd refinement Earth Monarch. Their talent is amazing, but they still haven't been selected as a disciple. This time Yi Tianyan became a disciple. Let them watch the excitement. They are jealous. Welcoming ceremony. Yi Tianyan narrowed his eyes and looked at them, as well as the surrounding disciples. All of their eyes were filled with hostility, but most of them were filled with jealousy. He knew that his actions would definitely make people jealous, especially the human race, which made them feel even more dissatisfied and humiliated. After all, there were so many disciples, but there was not a single human. There were more than 100 people around, and aside from him, there was basically no other human here. No wonder the human race was discriminated against, without any strong experts supporting them. How could they have any face? But in comparison, the gap was not small. All of them were young, but their cultivation was extremely heaven-defying. Among them, bloodline played a big role. Some were born with Spirit King stage cultivation. This was the gap. Unless the human cultivator was a strong cultivator, otherwise, the children they gave birth to would not have high cultivation. How could they not be discriminated against if their starting point was lower than the other races? The more discriminated, the more they couldn't bear to see them become stronger, or stand higher than them. I almost forgot about the welcoming ceremony. Yu Yanglong scratched his messy hair, looked at him and said, as long as the newcomers join the core palace, they must go through the welcoming ceremony. If the results are good, they will not be punished, otherwise they will be punished. Of course, if the results are good, they will get extra rewards. There are no exceptions, so if the 2 of you want to enter, you have to go through the welcoming ceremony first. Of course, if the two of you are not in good condition, you can rest outside, and after the welcoming ceremony, you can officially enter. What ritual? Yi Tianyun looked at the mocking expressions of the people in front of him. It was obvious that this welcoming ceremony would not be a simple one. It would definitely not be a simple welcoming ceremony. A welcoming ceremony of eating and drinking was absolutely impossible. Looking at their faces, they probably wouldn't even be able to say the word welcome. Instead, they would say the word trash. The welcome ceremony is very simple. You just have to carve your name on the stone tablet and leave your name on it. Yu Yanglong said. This has always been the rule of the core hall. Unless you leave the heavenly mandate divine realm or die, your name will always be on it. As he spoke, Yu Yanglong pointed to the side where there was a huge stone tablet. Rather than calling it a stone tablet, it would be better to call it a wall. From here, one could see many names. As far as the eye could see, there were at least 10,000 names. This meant that there were 10,000 disciples in the core hall. However, out of the tens of thousands of disciples, only one could persist for 10 days. This ratio was terrifyingly low. It seemed that persisting for 10 days was too difficult. Although there were many disciples, not all of them were in the core hall. After all, Yu Yanglong had said that as long as they did not betray the heavenly mandate divine realm or were dead, they would continue to stay up there. Therefore, some of them had powerful cultivations and went out to gain experience, or they held important positions and so on. In theory, they were not considered disciples of the core hall. However, they did not die and did not betray the heavenly mandate divine realm. Therefore, they would stay up there. Nian Xiu, this name is the most eye-catching. It's in the top area. Yi Tianyun looked carefully at the huge wall, and found that the name at the top was only Nian Xiu. The ones that were closer to the bottom were all dozens of feet away. They were not on the same level at all. Of course, there were also many names engraved at the bottom. He did not know how they were arranged. Nian Xiu, this is the one who set the record of 10 days of baptism in the divine realm. A female lord of heaven, a role model for us women. Gu Yurong's eyes were full of fanatical worship. She worshipped Nian Xiu very much. She should have seen her as her idol. And she is a strong woman? Yi Tianyun was stunned. He thought that the record holder would be a male. He did not expect it to be a female cultivator. This surprised him. Little brother, this is our welcome ceremony. The method is very simple. You just need to engrave your name on it. However, you don't use your hands or weapons. You use your spiritual energy. I heard that you lasted for 14 days. This is incredible. Since that's the case, logically speaking, you should be able to surpass senior sister Nian. If you don't, you'll become a laughing stock. The one who answered was naturally the brother here. His name was Zhou Ruanjia. He looked at him with a smile and explained in a very friendly manner. However, a hint of jealousy and disdain flashed in his eyes. It had already revealed what was going on in his heart. Of course, Yi Tianyun knew that he was not up to any good from the negative level of affection. Regardless of whether he was a disciple of Yu Yanglong or not, he should indeed call him brother. He should have called him brother when he just entered. As expected, he is up to no good. Yi Tianyun smiled. These guys just wanted to make things difficult for him. They wanted to see him make a fool of himself. If he could not surpass Nian Xiu, it meant that persisting for 14 days was also useless. He was still not as good as Nian Xiu. Nian Xiu was not of the same race as them, but at least she was not a human. Ahem, that's pretty much it. This welcome ceremony has a standard line. If you engrave it too low, you will be punished. Yu Yanglong pointed at the bottom of the wall. He said, if it is lower than this line, you will be punished. The punishment is very simple. You will have to help water the back mountain and take care of the spiritual medicine for 3 years. Yu Yanglong and the others, of course, knew what these guys were thinking. However, they did not expose them. Competition was a good thing. They also knew where the problem was. However, as long as there was no underhanded means, they would not care. For example, if it was a normal challenge, as long as it was not a sinister person, no one would care. If they secretly got rid of Yi Tianyun, they would definitely be furious. The heavenly mandate divine region was extremely against this kind of situation. Once it was found out, it would be a capital punishment. Chapter 903. Junior brother or junior sister, who will go first? Zhou Ruanjie smiled as he looked at the two of them. He wanted to see who would go first. Anyway, to him, Yi Tianyun's results were the most important. Gu Yurong's results had nothing to do with him. He wanted to see if Yi Tianyun could surpass Nian Xiyu's record. If he couldn't break it, then it would be a joke. I'll go first. Gu Yurong stood up. She didn't start from the back but chose to start first. The purpose of her doing this was to prove herself. She wanted others to notice her, and not to be a transparent person. Yi Tianyun's light was too dazzling. Even if she was a dazzling star, compared to Yi Tianyun's sun, she was nothing. Then junior sister will go first. Zhou Ruanjie stood to the side and indicated for her to carve her name first. This welcoming ceremony not only tested the strength of one's mental energy, but it also allowed everyone to know the name of the newcomer. Although it was called a welcoming ceremony, it was actually a self-introduction. However, this self-introduction relied on one's ability to prove oneself. If the name was carved low, it meant that one's mental energy was not good enough. Mental energy was equivalent to the strength of one's soul. The stronger one's mental energy was, the more benefits it would bring to cultivation. It was basically equivalent to talent. Especially mental energy, it was the hardest to cultivate. Most cultivators could only be considered to have just started. Breaking through to the star venerate level was considered to have just started. Hence, this welcoming ceremony was a way to test one's mental energy talent. Gu Yurong came to the wall and placed her hand on it. Then, she slowly closed her eyes. Following that, a formless energy surged out of her body. Immediately, the wall started to emit a faint light. This light kept surging upwards. At first it was quite fast. However, when it reached about 3 meters, it suddenly slowed down. This proved that from here on, the difficulty started to increase. Mental energy could not surge upwards. However, Gu Yurong still managed to reach the passing line in one breath, and continued to rush upwards. However, her speed started to slow down. However, it was fine. She just had to climb up slowly. She climbed up inch by inch. Soon she reached 3 meters, 6 meters, and then 10 meters. His speed was neither fast nor slow as he climbed up. Soon he surpassed many of his fellow disciples, and even achieved good results. Because the higher one went, the fewer names there were. There were the most people at the bottom, but the number of people at the top began to decrease rapidly. However, compared to Nian Xiyu, who was hundreds of feet tall, the difference was still too great. He had only climbed 30 feet, and it was already very strenuous. He didn't know how that Nian Xiyu carved words on it. However, there was no need to compete with Nian Xiyu. It was fine to compete with others. When he climbed to about 30 feet, the surrounding names dropped drastically. He had managed to squeeze into the top 3,000, leaving the 7,000-odd people behind. Moreover, the fact that she could continue climbing without stopping proved that Gu Yurong still had potential. Yu Yanglong and the others looked at Gu Yurong and their eyes lit up. She looked like a promising talent, especially since she could continue to climb up. However, Gu Yurong's forehead was covered in sweat. It was enough to show that this wasn't an easy task. Junior sister, I suggest that you carve words within the range that you can bear. If you just charge upwards, it will be extremely difficult. Zhou Ruanjie reminded her. He didn't have much to say to Yi Tianyun, but he didn't have any enmity towards Gu Yurong. He immediately became a normal senior brother. An senior brother who cared and took care of people. Gu Yurong didn't say anything. She focused all her energy on the wall, so how would she have the energy to reply? She didn't listen to Zhou Ruanjie and continued to charge upwards. She wanted to carve words at a higher place. If she wanted to get better treatment, she had to show off. Especially with 2 elders behind her. How could she not work hard? Yi Tianyun looked at her from behind and couldn't help but nod his head. Gu Yurong worked hard, not because she liked to show off, but because she wanted to prove herself. Only by proving herself would she be able to get better treatment. Very quickly, Her mental strength continued to charge upwards. When it reached the 50 feet mark, it was a little difficult to go further. At this time, there were only a few hundred people left. This meant that she had made it into the top 1,000 in one go. This was really not easy. Initially, there were many who could last more than 7 days, but there were very few who could reach the 50 feet mark. At the very least, she had made it from the top 10,000 to the top 1,000. This was much better than many of the cultivators present. Many of the cultivators present could at most reach the 30 to 40 feet mark. Only a few could reach more than 50 feet. All of them looked at Gu Yurong with different expressions. They didn't expect her to have such potential. It was really impressive. Finally, she started to carve her name. It was as if there was a transparent carving knife on the wall. She started to carve her name bit by bit. Stroke by stroke, she carved Gu Yurong's name on the wall. Carving her name was even more difficult than climbing up. After all, the difficulty of leaving a mark on the wall was no less than climbing up. Even so, she still carved her name on the wall bit by bit. Looking at the name one by one, they couldn't help but feel a sense of admiration. Soon, the 3 words Gu Yurong were carved on the area a little more than 15 meters high. After it was done, Gu Yurong sat on the ground as if she had collapsed. Her entire body was drenched in sweat, as if she had just been fished out of the water. One had to say that Gu Yurong's situation was very bad. She had overdrawn herself. It was not easy for her to persist to this point. If she failed, she would have to start all over again. One could imagine how difficult it was. Junior apprentice Sister Gu, good job. That's right. The level of your mental strength is not bad. It seems that your foundation is very good. One by one, they began to applaud. They all felt that Gu Yurong's performance was very good. Not bad, not bad. You are a girl with great potential. Work hard. I am optimistic about you. Ming Yueqing smiled at Gu Yurong and praised her. Many thanks for Elder Ming's praise. Gu Yurong stood up and bowed respectfully. Her beautiful eyes were filled with joy. This was the result she wanted. She had to show her ability and prove that she had potential. Only then would she be able to stand firmly in the core hall. Immediately she retreated. When she looked at Yi Tianyan, she nodded lightly, indicating that Yi Tianyan could go ahead and carve her name. This time, everyone's eyes were focused on him. They wanted to see if he could break Nian Xiyu's record. That was a height of 130 feet. Compared to the second place, it was more than 40 feet. It was simply an existence on a different level. Yi Tianyan smiled. Wasn't it just playing with mental strength and control? Compared to this, who could he be afraid of? He was now a creator-level divine pattern master. Chapter 904. Yi Tianyan felt that the reason why Nian Xiyu could obtain such shocking results was because she herself was a very strong divine rune master. Of course, only those who had reached the peak level of the creator of Fan Yu were qualified to be called divine engraving masters. Those below the divine carver master would naturally be addressed in the same way as Fan Yu. It was just that those at the top would not be addressed as creators. This was too exaggerated. It couldn't really create anything. Fan Yu referred to him as such because at this level, he was able to create powerful divine inscriptions. Hence, although they were called creators, in reality, they were only at the entry level of the god domain. They were definitely not creators. As long as one had a strong divine inscription master level, then leaving a deep mark on the surface wouldn't be a problem at all. Therefore, he inferred that Nian Xiyu was absolutely a very strong divine inscription master. After all, a divine inscription master's mental strength was very strong. If one's mental strength was not strong enough, it would be easy to fail. Of course, it was also possible that they were born with strong spiritual power. It was not that there were no such people. Some people were born with explosive spiritual power, and there was really no way to compare with such people. As he lifted his foot to walk up the wall, the sound of discussion immediately rang out behind him. I dare say that he will never be able to surpass senior sister Nian. I think so too. Previously, there was someone who persisted for more than 9 days and almost reached 10 days. The record had not been broken, but it was infinitely close. But when it comes to carving the name, The difference is like heaven and earth. It's not even on the same level. That's right. To be able to leave your name high up in the rankings is true strength. Maybe he's the type that looks strong on the outside but is weak on the inside. He can't even reach a height of 1 zhang. All of them thought so. They felt that breaking the record was not a problem. The real focus was to leave their names on it. They were waiting to see Yi Tianyan make a fool out of himself. So what if Yi Tianyan achieved a height of 30 to 40 feet? Even if he achieved a height of 80 to 90 feet, it would still be a joke to them. As long as he didn't surpass Nian Xiyu, he would be ridiculed. Persisting for 14 days was meaningless. This was the only way to prove one's strength. For example, no matter how talented one was, he couldn't be called a super genius if he was beaten black and blue in a fight. Everything would be determined by actual combat, not by using certain things to measure one's ability. Little did they know that these were just sour grapes in their hearts. After all, no matter what, he was still much stronger than them. It was just that they liked to comfort themselves in this way, the mentality of the weak. I don't know how his mental strength is, but I think it shouldn't be too bad. Yu Yanglong smiled as he looked at Yi Tianyan. It's just that to surpass that last Nian Xiyu, I'm afraid this is a little more difficult. I think so too. To be able to control 2 types of flames at the same time, one's spiritual energy can't be weak. The problem is that the girl Nian Xiyu is too powerful. She is born with a powerful soul. She is definitely a great divine card of our heavenly mandate realm. Ming Yueqing sighed. The two of them didn't think that Yi Tianyan would surpass Nian Xiyu. They had seen how heaven-defying Nian Xiyu was. They didn't think that Yi Tianyan could surpass her. Yi Tianyan didn't care about what they were thinking. He went to the bottom of the wall and looked up. The words Nian Xiyu were imprinted on the top of the wall. Although the words weren't big, compared to the name below, it gave off a feeling of superiority. The corner of his mouth curled up, and then he reached out and covered the wall, quickly mobilizing the mental strength in his brain. Buzz. In an instant, the whole wall trembled. His overbearing mental strength, like a bolt of lightning, suddenly rushed to a height of 3 or 4 feet in one breath, and then quickly climbed up 5 feet. In a short time of a breath, he had easily surpassed Gu Yurong's result, and there was no sign of slowing down, continuing to rush up. 6 feet. 7 feet. 8 feet. The speed was fast and fierce. When Yi Tianyan controlled his mental strength to go up, he could indeed feel the resistance inside, but he still easily rushed up, as if he was piercing through a piece of paper. He quickly rushed up to 9 feet, 10 feet, 11 feet, 13 feet. In a short period of time, he had already reached the same height as Nian Xiyu. However, he was only slightly higher than Nian Xiyu by an inch. Immediately, 3 large words were fiercely branded on it. Yi Tianyan. Dong dong dong. The 3 big words seemed to be imprinted on the wall. It was incomparably easy, and it moved people. The whole process took less than the time for half an incense stick to burn, and he easily reached the target. Previously, when Gu Yurong was carving this name, she spent a full hour to carve her name in the area of 5 feet. Yi Tianyan only spent less than the time for half an incense stick to burn to crush Nian Xiayu's height, and he directly carved his name on the wall an inch away. His limit was just a little higher than Nian Xiayu's? Of course, it couldn't be like that. Many people could see that Yi Tianyan did it on purpose. No one knew where his limit was, and he purposely went a little higher than Nian Xiayu. Everything was done with ease, and it was extremely easy. Everyone was dumbfounded, including the 2 teachers. If it was them, their results would definitely be much better than Yi Tianyun's, and it wouldn't be a problem for them to run a few dozen feet. But under the circumstances of this level of cultivation, they couldn't do it to this extent. Previously, he said that he wouldn't surpass Nian Xiayu. But now he easily surpassed her, and he could even carve his name a little higher. He was obviously telling everyone that he just wanted to surpass Nian Xiayu. It was very simple, and that was to surpass her, but not by too much, so that no one knew what Yi Tianyun's limit was. The corner of Yi Tianyun's mouth curled up into a smile, and he turned to look at them and said, "Teachers, I wonder what my result is like." Good. The 2 elders' faces turned red. This was because they were excited, and it was like they were slapped in the face. They were still very excited. After all, this was their own disciple. Wasn't it good for their disciple to be a little stronger? After Gu Yurong saw Yi Tianyun's result, her hanging heart immediately relaxed. Following that, she shook her head and revealed a bitter smile. Luckily she went first. If she went later, then no one would care about her, and they would only stare at Yi Tianyun's name. This name was so conspicuous. It was even a little higher than Nian Xiaoyu's, above all the other names. Zhou Ruanjia's expression was ugly. He originally thought that he could make things difficult for Yi Tianyun, but who knew that he would steal the limelight instead, shocking all the core hall disciples. If the Divine Realm baptism was boring, then what about carving names? What kind of saying was that? Chapter 905. All of them couldn't be jealous of Yi Tianyun. This was already heaven-defying. Where were they? They were all at the standard of 4 to 5 feet. The highest was around 7 to 8 feet. The gap between them and Yi Tianyun was really too big. Previously, they thought that Yi Tianyun wouldn't be able to surpass Nian Xiyu. Who knew that it would be so easy? They didn't know how long Nian Xiyu had spent to leave her name at such a high level. In short, the time that Yi Tianyun spent was too short. Before they could react, he had already completed everything. Everything was so fast and so violent. That's right, it was quite violent. They had never seen such a violent way of carving words. It crushed everyone. Senior brothers, what do you think of my result? Yi Tianyun looked at Zhou Ruanjia and the others. At this moment he naturally wouldn't be stingy with his words. This is not bad. Zhou Ruanjia was extremely embarrassed. He wanted to make things difficult for Yi Tianyun, but in the end, he dug a hole for himself. Now he didn't know what to say. Then there are no more problems. The welcoming ceremony is over. Masters, can we go in? Yi Tianyun couldn't be bothered with him. He would rather focus on doing something. Yes, let's go. The two elders smiled and brought Yi Tianyun inside. What are you thinking about? Let's go. Yi Tianyun patted Gu Yurong's shoulder, indicating for her to follow him. Gu Yurong recovered from her shock. Then, she hesitated for a while before choosing to follow. The group of people looked at each other. Their eyes were still fixed on the 3 huge words, Yi Tianyun, on the wall. They couldn't come back to their senses for a long time. Senior brother Zhou, this kid's level is so high. Isn't he going to step on our heads? A cultivator at the side said anxiously. How is that possible? Zhou Ruanjia's eyes surged with a hint of viciousness. I don't believe that he is also incomparably strong in battle. I will find a time to challenge him and beat him up. Then, I will make him behave. What the hell? He's clearly a human. How can he be so strong? That's right. Beat him down so hard that he can't stay in the core hall any longer. They really couldn't believe it. How could a race that had always been at the bottom suddenly rise up? This was like a student with poor grades suddenly becoming the top student the next day. Who could believe it? However, the truth was right before their eyes. They had no choice but to believe it. They could only use other methods to suppress Yi Tianyun. They couldn't bear to see a human riding on their heads, so they had to think of a way to deal with Yi Tianyun. All of them had sinister expressions on their faces, but some didn't join in. After all, some did not dislike the human race and were considered neutral, while others had a favorable impression of the human race. With so many races, some would more or less not reject the human race, while some would reject it very much. Overall, the majority of them were against it. While they were plotting, the two elders brought Yi Tianyun and Gu Yurong to the main hall. They passed through many passageways, and even took the teleportation array. After changing locations several times, they finally arrived at the elders' main hall. The elders' main hall was specially built for the two elders to stay in. Along the way, Yi Tianyun saw many cultivators. Some were from the same sect, and some were other attendants. Of course, the core hall wasn't just for the disciples. There were also many cultivators with lower cultivation. They were in charge of cleaning the place, or taking care of the flowers, herbs and the like. This was a planet, so there couldn't be only a few thousand people here. Many cultivators stayed here, busy with many things, and the division of labor was clear. This is the Elders' Hall? They sure are generous. Yi Tianyan looked up. It wasn't that the buildings here were luxurious, but there was a large array that kept absorbing the stellar power from above. First, it flowed into the Elders' main hall, then into the other halls. Therefore, the stellar power in the Elders' main hall was the densest. The other halls weren't bad either. It was much denser than the planet they came from. It was like a heaven for cultivation. It was even better compared to the three realms. The best cultivation place in the three realms couldn't compare to this small corner. In particular, this place provided him with astral powers instead of spiritual powers. Apart from that, there were many dense divine runes on it, and any one of them was extremely profound. Compared to the ones he had encountered before, it was like heaven and earth. No wonder the evil spirit race looked down on the divine runes they had set up. This level could only be regarded as a very ordinary beginner level here. At least a third-grade divine inscriber can carve this level. Yi Tianyan struck the divine rune twice. It was a super reinforced divine rune. Even if he attacked it, he wouldn't be able to damage it at all. Unless one's cultivation was a whole realm higher, it would be impossible to damage this place. Then, under the guidance of the two elders, they came to the elders' main hall. As soon as they entered, they saw that it was divided into three passages. One was very hot, and the other was very cold. There was no doubt that the passage on the left would lead to the area where Yu Yanglong was, and the other would lead to the area where Ming Yueqing was. Only the middle passage was normal. They brought Yi Tianyan to the middle passage. After entering, it was empty, and there was nothing inside. The surroundings were connected in all directions, but they didn't know where it led to. Yi Tianyan found that the reinforced divine runes in this area were even more powerful, several times stronger than the ones outside. This is the place where the two of us usually spar. From time to time, we might get some inspiration. Yu Yanglong saw that Yi Tianyan and the others were curious, so he explained. This is a martial arts field? Yi Tianyan nodded. No wonder there were so many reinforcements here. When two Lord of Heaven fought, how could the power not be terrifying? If they didn't reinforce a few more layers here, the core hall would be smashed to pieces. More or less the same. Yu Yanglong smiled and said, "How do you feel now? Can we start immediately?" He was already eager to give it a try, and Ming Yueqing was also the same. He wanted to let Yi Tianyan try immediately, to see if he could master their flame. Not a lot, but at least a little bit to see the degree of compatibility. No problem, we can start now. Yi Tianyan was not long-winded. Before coming here, he had already rested enough, so he was full of energy. That's exactly what we wanted. Yu Yanglong smiled at Gu Yurong and said, "Little girl, you just stay on the side and watch. If you have the slightest feeling for any of the flames, we can let you try. Let's see if you can grasp this opportunity." Thank you, Elder. Gu Yurong's tender body trembled, almost crying. Chapter 906. Yi Tianyan looked at Gu Yurong, and when the latter met his eyes, he nodded slightly, giving her an encouraging look, indicating that she should grasp this opportunity. He was simply fighting for Gu Yurong. Seeing such a hard-working girl, he couldn't help but want to help. The most important thing was that Gu Yurong didn't reject him, plus Gu Yanlong had helped him before, so he just conveniently helped her. In fact, this wasn't really a help, it was just a convenience. Whether she could grasp it or not depended on Gu Yurong's ability. If she couldn't grasp it, then it could only be said that they were not fated. Immediately, Yu Yanglong and Ming Yueqing looked at him. Yu Yanglong first said, "I wonder which of our flames do you want to feel first? This must be done step by step." He couldn't absorb both flames at the same time, otherwise it would easily cause problems. Although it seemed that Yi Tianyan was very experienced, they still had to be cautious. If Yi Tianyan's body exploded, it would definitely be a big loss. Then let's follow Master Yu first. Yi Tianyan planned to use the white flame bone fire first. After all, he had the immortal flame from the beginning, so he had a higher degree of control. Well, let's start with my flame. Yu Yanglong gently stretched out his hand, and a small flame appeared in his palm. His face was serious as he said, "This is the white flame bone fire's origin flame. So far, You only have 3 chances to control it. If you fail all of them, then wait a few years. The origin flame could be absorbed into the body, and after subduing it, it would become one's own flame. If one casually threw out an ordinary flame, then it would only burn people to death, and would not be able to control it. This was the most common way to transfer flames, but the failure rate was extremely high. The highest success rate was obtained in the outside world, and subduing it would be much easier. However, the white flame bone fire wasn't something that could be found everywhere. When Yu Yanglong was young, he spent a lot of effort, and under a lot of opportunities, he was able to obtain it. To put it bluntly, these things could only be found by chance. Therefore, one could only transfer the origin flame within the body, but it couldn't be given an unlimited amount, like blood essence. Every time he transferred the origin flame, the flame within his body would weaken a little. If he gave out too much at once, it would be difficult for him to recover. 3 times was a very good number. This way, the recovery time would be slightly faster, but it would still take a few years. Of course, to them, a few years was just a snap of the fingers. No problem. Yi Tianyan nodded, indicating that they could begin. Immediately, Yu Yanglong passed the white blazing bone fire over so that Yi Tianyan could absorb it into his body. However, Yi Tianyan was a bit more violent. His inextinguishable flame immediately emerged, wrapping around the white blaze bone fire and quickly absorbing it into his body. Just as he absorbed it into his body, the system's voice rang in his ears. Ding detected white flame bone fire. Are you willing to absorb it as your own flame? Yi Tianyan's eyes were filled with joy, and he immediately replied, absorb. Ding successfully obtained white blazing bone fire. Grade: Heaven level lower grade. Requires 3 million experience points to upgrade. It was easy to absorb all of his flames, but the grade was too low. Yu Yanglong couldn't possibly transfer his own flames over. If that happened, Yi Tianyan wouldn't even know how he died. He would definitely need to weaken the flames slightly before he could absorb them. This is really easy. Yi Tianyan squinted his eyes. It was really too easy to obtain such a shocking flame. Unlike the inextinguishable flame, high-grade heaven level was already the peak, and there was no way for it to advance any further. How is it? Did you fail? Yu Yanglong saw that after Yi Tianyan absorbed the flames, he kept quiet and thought that he had failed. He sighed and said, don't be disheartened, failure is normal. After all, it isn't that easy to grasp. I don't recruit many disciples, but there are still quite a few of them, but none of them succeeded. Master Yu, are you talking about this? Yi Tianyan smiled and stretched out his hand. Whoosh! The white blazing bonfire appeared in front of him. It was a lot worse than Yu Yanglong's, but he had successfully grasped it. Yu. They were incoherent and didn't know what to say. Succeeding on the first try, how could they not be shocked? They had seen many geniuses, but they had never seen such a heaven-defying existence. Guyurong was dumbfounded. Today was the most shocking day for her. Since she was born, she had never been shocked so many times. Now it's Master Ming's turn. Let's see if he can continue to absorb the dark devouring flame. Yi Tianyan motioned them to calm down, and not be so excited. After a while, the 2 masters calmed down. Ming Yueqing took a deep breath to calm down and said, okay, it's my turn this time. My flame is a bit higher than the white blazing bone fire, so it will be slightly more difficult to absorb. It doesn't matter if I fail. Then he released the dark devouring flame, and cold air immediately rushed out. The grade was the same, but the power was completely different. The dark devouring flame was indeed a bit higher than the white blazing bone fire. In the list of demonic flames, the white blazing bone fire was ranked 8th, while the dark devouring flame was ranked 7th. Therefore, if the grade of the flame was different, in a real battle, it would have a great advantage and could suppress the opponent's flame. Yi Tianyan didn't stand on ceremony. How could he let go of something that could enhance the power of his flame? He stretched out his hand and absorbed the dark devouring flame, and a familiar voice appeared in his ears. Ding detected the dark devouring flame. Do you want to absorb it as your own ability? Not for now. Yi Tianyan didn't make it his own flame, but chose to give it up. However, after giving it up, It became a prop and fell into his inventory, meaning that he could absorb it at will. After a while he said, "I didn't succeed this time." Etienne's reply made the three of them feel relieved. If he succeeded directly, it would definitely scare them silly. It's okay, there's still a chance to slowly try." Ming Yueqing comforted him and said, "After all, the difficulty of this flame is quite high, and it won't be easy to absorb." "Elder Ming, are you implying that my flame is bad?" Yu Yanglong glared at him from the side. After all, he had succeeded in the first try. "In terms of grade, it is indeed better than yours. Are you not convinced?" Ming Yueqing said without any trace of politeness. "Good. Do you want to try again and see whose flame is stronger?" Yu Yanglong said in a dissatisfied tone. "Come on, who's afraid of who?" Ming Yueqing rolled up his sleeves, ready to compete with Yu Yanglong. "Ahem, two masters, no one's flame is bad. It's just that after absorbing the white blazing bone fire, the difficulty increased a bit." Chapter 907. Under Etienne's persuasion, the two of them finally stopped quarreling, especially since his words were very reasonable. After absorbing the white flame bone fire, the difficulty of absorbing another flame would indeed increase by a bit. In other words, if they absorbed the dark devouring flame first, the white flame bone fire would also fail. This time, the two of them snorted and did not continue to argue. "Do you want to control the white flame bone fire first, and then try to absorb my dark devouring flame?" Ming Yueqing asked. "There's no need for that. We can try one more time now. If we fail again, then I won't try for the time being," Etienne said with a smile. This time he would definitely not fail. As long as he failed once, it would be fine. "All right." Ming Yueqing once again passed the origin of flame over. After Etienne absorbed it, he immediately absorbed it as his own flame ability. Soon a pleasant voice sounded in his ears. Ding successfully absorbed dark devouring flame. Immediately, Etienne stretched out his hand, and with a swoosh sound, the dark devouring flame appeared in front of them. Each of them was dumbfounded. He really succeeded. Although they had failed once, it was not a problem for them. They were also quite powerful existences. One had to know that others had tried countless times, and all of them had ended in failure. Etienne succeeded on his second try, which meant that he was still a monstrous genius among monstrous geniuses. Even if he tried 10 times before succeeding, he would still be a genius among geniuses. As long as he succeeded, he would be considered a super genius. Etienne, of course, knew this truth. He just wanted to let them know that he could not succeed on his first try, and that he was not at the level of a freak. To show his ability, he must show it, otherwise how could he win more resources for himself? Success, it's a success. Too terrifying. Two flames are about to be mastered. They were shocked and excited at the same time, not knowing what to say. You try it, see if you can release two flames at the same time?" Yu Yanglong found himself stuttering. He had never been so shocked in his life. "No problem." According to their instructions, Etienne extended his hand and released the two types of flames. Soon, two more flames appeared in front of him. They were the white blazing bone fire and the hell-devouring nether fire. This was not difficult for him at all. If he could use all 4 types of flames. However, he didn't want to scare everyone, so he didn't use it. "You've really done it. You're definitely the first person in history to have mastered 2 types of flames that completely counter each other. This matter must be reported to the domain lord." Yu Yanglong and Ming Yueqing were too excited. This was a super genius worth cultivating. How could they not report it? Yes, this must be reported. The domain lord would definitely be very happy when she found out. "I didn't expect that our heavenly mandate divine realm would finally have a super genius. In this battle of heavenly ascension, he will definitely make it to the top 10. Ming Yueqing said with surprise. The two of them were excited to each other, as if they saw the hope of victory. The ascending battle of the god domain? Etienne narrowed his eyes as if he had obtained some information. Yes, the ascending battle of the god domain. Ming Yueqing looked at him and said with a smile. "You just joined, so you don't know. Our core hall controls the battle of reputation of the heavenly mandate divine realm. And everything depends on us. I'll tell you in detail later. After all, there is still a long time. Now it's your turn, little girl. You've seen it all. Which flame do you feel? They didn't forget to give Gu Yurong a chance, especially now that they were in a very good mood. If someone praised them, they might reward them. This junior wants to absorb the dark devouring flame, mainly because this junior's bloodline belongs to the cold attribute, the bloodline of the ice dragon. The dark devouring flame is more suitable for this junior to try. Gu Yurong stated the reason for her choice, which was quite clear. The bloodline of the ice dragon, this is indeed the best choice for this flame. Ming Yueqing squinted at her and said with a smile, I can give you 2 chances, so don't be too nervous. Elder Ming, are you alright? Giving me 2 chances will hurt my body, Gu Yurong said hurriedly. Don't worry, I'm very happy today. And at most I just need a little more time to recover, it's not a big problem. Ming Yueqing smiled. This was actually equivalent to giving face to Yi Tianyan. They all thought that Gu Yurong was Yi Tianyan's woman. And in order to make their disciple feel more at ease, they would certainly give her a little extra. Just listen to Master Ming. Yi Tianyan signaled her not to refuse. Ming Yueqing was not a fool, he knew how to behave. Gu Yurong nodded. She knew that it was all because of Yi Tianyan. Then she began to accept it, and tried to swallow the dark devouring flame. As soon as the dark devouring flame was absorbed into her body immediately bloomed with a faint blue light. The blood vessels in her body all lit up, and the surface of her arms appeared with a blue light, as if it was stimulating some kind of power. Buzz! Gu Yurong closed her eyes and floated up, the origin fire in her body quickly surging around. The movement was much bigger than that of Yi Tianyan. This is not just the blood of the ice dragon, it is the body of the ice saint, Ming Yueqing said in shock. The body of the ice saint? Yi Tianyan's eyes brightened. It was quite a familiar body. Wasn't it Shi Shuiyan's body? After a while, the dark devouring flame was firmly grasped by her. She stretched out her hand, and the dark devouring flame rose up. The cold air was threatening. This time, they were all stunned. Not only did Yi Tianyan succeed in absorbing the dark devouring flame in one go, but today there was another person who could successfully absorb the dark devouring flame in one go. Both of us are so lucky today, aren't we? 2 people who can control the dark devouring flame. Is the heavenly mandate realm going to prosper? Their faces were red, and under their messy hair, there was a red face. They were all excited, and they had never been so excited. I have the body of the ice saint. Gu Yurong was stunned. She was not very clear about it, especially when she could use the flame. Her heart was about to fly out of her chest. It felt like a complete turnaround, a complete turnaround. Congratulations, Yi Tianyan said to her with a smile. Thank you. Her eyes were red, and tears immediately came out. She cried at the drop of a hat, and everything was inexplicable. Yi Tianyan suddenly felt a little embarrassed, and he did not know how to comfort her. Hey boy, why don't you comfort your woman? What are you doing here? Ming Yueqing reached out and patted him on the shoulder. Master, you must have misunderstood something. She is my companion, not my woman, Yi Tianyan said helplessly. What? Both of them were dumbfounded. It turned out that they had misunderstood. Chapter 908. Looking at their misunderstood expressions, Yi Tianyan shrugged his shoulders. Gu Yurong, who was next to him, blushed. She did not think much about it. She did not expect to be thought like that. After wiping away her tears with the back of her hand, she felt very shy. The atmosphere became awkward, and she did not know what to say. Ahem, no matter what, are you willing to be my disciple? Ming Yueqing coughed a few times to ease the awkward atmosphere. Disciple is willing. After saying that, Gu Yurong knelt down without hesitation. She was very excited. She had been waiting for this moment, but everything felt like a dream. Originally, there was no hope, but now she was about to become Ming Yueqing's disciple. This was no different from a meteoric rise. They were the elders of the heavenly mandate divine realm, and they were far from what others could compare with. Perhaps they were not the strongest elders, but they were definitely at the forefront of the elders. There was no need to say much about the benefits of following them. Good. Ming Yueqing smiled and helped Gu Yurong up. He stretched out his hand, and an upper-grade divine weapon appeared in his hand. He handed it to Gu Yurong and said, "This is a gift for you, and this is the choice token." At the same time, the election token also appeared. Now there were 2 election tokens. "Elder Ming, since you have accepted her as your disciple, then he should be my disciple, one for each of us," Yu Yanglong said with a smile. "Get out." Ming Yueqing rolled his eyes at him and snorted. "He has both of our flames, so I should have a share." Ming Yueqing smiled and took out a high-grade divine tool and a choice token. "This is my gift to you. I wanted to give you a reincarnation-level divine tool, but you need to get used to it on your own so that it would be more suitable for you," Ming Yueqing said with a smile on his face. "Yes, I also want to give you a gift." Yu Yanglong naturally did not want to fall behind, and also gave him the choice token and the upper-grade divine weapon. Although the grade was not as good as the reincarnation level, it was still an upper-grade divine weapon. It was an extremely precious superior-grade divine artifact in the ordinary realm, and he gave it away without hesitation. After Yi Tianyan took it, wouldn't he have 3 choice tokens? Gu Yurong was very envious as she watched from the side. 2 masters were indeed different, being able to receive 2 sets of rewards. But she was not jealous at all. She was quite satisfied to get so many rewards, especially a master. If she went back and told her family, it would definitely make them explode. Almost. You have 2 choice tokens, so you can have 2 chances. It doesn't matter if you fail, there is a second chance. It doesn't matter if you fail once, there is a second chance. We won't give you too many choice tokens. Everything will depend on your own abilities. Yu Yanglong patted him on the shoulder and said, "You can rest here. Someone will arrange accommodation for you later. Wait for our notice." After that, they of them, they of them, at they and said. Now that only the 2 of them were left in the hall, Gu Yurong paused for a moment before saying, "Senior brother Yi, thank you for your help. If it weren't for you, I wouldn't have gotten this opportunity." He would never forget this kindness. "If there's anything you need me for in the future, I'll definitely help." Her tone was sonorous and forceful, filled with deep gratitude. "This is just in passing." Yi Tianyan smiled and said, "All right, let's go back to rest and familiarize ourselves with these flames." He didn't really care about this kind of thing. From the beginning to the end, it was Gu Yurong's own ability. It didn't have much to do with him. It was too much to say that he had helped. Although he did help, it was only a trivial matter. After they left, the guards quickly came to greet them and brought them back to their rooms. Their rooms were in the elders' hall, and they lived in the same place as the elders. Their treatment was much better than that of the core disciples outside. The treatment is really good. No wonder they desperately squeezed in. Just the accommodation alone is so amazing. Who wouldn't want to come in? When Yi Tianyan entered the accommodation, it was a unique small courtyard. The surrounding trees were not ordinary at all, but Tier 6 spirit trees. Of course, in this place they could only be called lower Tier 6. In the God domain, there were 2 levels, lower and upper tier. The lower tier indicated that it belonged to the Fanyu, and the upper tier indicated that it belonged to the God domain. Of course, in the ordinary realm, he had never seen a lower grade 8 or lower grade 9. In fact, he had never seen one. In the 3 realms, he had at most seen Tier 6 or Tier 7. He had never seen Tier 8 and above. Since the 3 realms couldn't grow, it naturally didn't exist. Here there were Tier 6 and Tier 7 spirit trees or spirit herbs everywhere. As for the God domain's high-grade spirit herbs, there were none here. After all, the God domain was also dominated by lower Tier 9. Upper Tier 9 was not that easy to obtain. Even in the God domain, which was a good environment for growth, it was not easy to grow. In particular, this place was not very suitable for growth, so naturally, it would not be seen here. However, the environment here was still top-notch. With so many spirit herbs and spirit herbs here, if they were placed in the Fanyu, it would definitely cause a war in the Divine Kingdom. How could one not be tempted to have so many spirit herbs and spirit herbs so casually? Yi Tianyan looked around. There were many spirit trees, but to him, they were not of much value. Especially for those with a higher cultivation level, the experience points gained from consuming them were not much. They could only be used for viewing or to increase the concentration of star power here. Tianyan randomly found a place in the room and sat down to meditate. He did not cultivate, but instead he started to do the lottery. Previously in the 3 realms, he had obtained 2 lottery chances, but he had not had the time to use them. He wondered what he would get this time. Lottery. Soon the lottery wheel appeared. As he activated the lucky halo, the needle stopped on the consumable item. Tianyan was not disappointed. In any case, it would definitely not be bad. Ding dong. After opening the wooden box, what appeared in front of him was Teleportation God Stone. Not bad, good stuff. Tianyun's eyes lit up. It's not bad to get Teleportation God Stone, he can use it. Of course, it doesn't matter if he doesn't have it, the shop has it for sale. At most, he just needs to spend some crazy points to buy it. Then he continued to draw the second reward. This time the needle still pointed to the consumable item. Why did I get 2 consumable items in a row? Tianyan felt a little helpless. After opening the wooden box, a 100 times EXP card appeared in front of him. Well, this thing is not bad. Chapter 909. The God Realm Lottery Roulette. After Tianyan activated the God Realm Lottery Roulette, it was no different from the previous ones. Most of the situations were similar, and there were no changes in the categories. At most, the appearance of the roulette had a slight change, such as an extra golden border, but these were not the main point. The main point was what grade of items he could get. It was very likely that he would get a Samsara grade treasure. These were all possibilities. Compared to this, he was more concerned about whether he could get a godly skill. A godly skill of the God Realm, what would it be like? Let me draw. Soon, the lottery roulette spun quickly. He did not want to get a consumable item, but a godly skill. If he could get a higher grade godly skill, it would undoubtedly be of great help to him. Looking at the spinning lottery roulette, he had not been so excited in a long time. He hoped that he could get a godly skill. The lottery roulette seemed to hear his shouts, and finally stopped on the godly skill. The most difficult godly skill to get was presented in front of him just like that. Good. Tianyan could not help but shout, his heart filled with excitement. He was just thinking about it a little more, whether he could get a godly skill, or not was another matter. After getting a godly skill, he was really a little excited. Gulp. Following that, a crystal box fell into his inventory. Just the box itself had undergone a huge change, turning into a crystal form. This was the first time it had changed. Previously, it had always been a wooden box, but now it had become a crystal box. Of course, no matter what box it was, the box would not belong to him after opening it. It would disappear immediately, so he selectively ignored the change in appearance. I wonder what kind of godly skill it will be. Tianyan rubbed his palms and opened the crystal box. Soon, the godly skill appeared in front of him. Ding. Congratulations on obtaining godly skill, invisibility. What? Invisibility? Tianyan was stunned. How could it be invisibility? Didn't he get it before? After taking a closer look, he realized that it was indeed invisibility, but it was only a high-level one. Invisibility. Godly skill invisibility. Whether attacked or attacked, will not be revealed. At level 4, it could last for 30 minutes and had a cooldown of 1 hour. It could guarantee that anyone within the 5th floor of the Lord of Heaven would not be able to recognize it. The completely enhanced version quickly replaced the pitiful invisibility from before, and became the level 4 invisibility. It greatly increased the level of invisibility, and the corresponding level of cultivation. Overall, it's not a loss, at least he doesn't need to spend a lot of crazy point to level up, which requires a lot of crazy point to level up to level 4. In theory it was not a loss, but it was a little disappointing. Looks like the godly skill also has a repetition. I thought there would be a new one. Tianyan shook his head. It was as if a bucket of cold water had been poured over him, extinguishing his passion just like that. However, he did not feel depressed. Since that was the case, there was no other way. He could only wait for the next lottery draw. Following him, he reorganized the place a little, selling off everything he didn't need, or using it to concoct pills or forge weapons. He got rid of a lot of things he didn't need in order to completely clean up his inventory. This was especially true for the martial arts from before. Many of the martial arts that he didn't need had been cleared away. The things that he got from killing the enemies were cleared away. These were basically useless. The things that were really useful here were at least rebirth level and above. Below this level, he could use them, but later on when dealing with stronger enemies, heaven level was not enough. Almost, it's time to go to the selection hall to exchange for what I need. He didn't rest here for too long. After a general understanding of the situation in the divine realm, he chose to leave. He just came to the divine realm, so there were a lot of things he didn't know. Fortunately, he could get information at will here. He ordered the guards outside, and immediately brought him a lot of detailed information about the divine realm. Once he had a clear understanding of everything, he wouldn't be like a hothead, running around aimlessly. Immediately, he got up and went to the selection hall. He could go through the teleportation formation outside. Because he was a core disciple, there was basically no need for teleportation fees. Under normal circumstances, teleportation fees were required. Even if he was a disciple of the heavenly mandate divine realm, using the teleportation formation required a fee. After all, the energy required for teleportation was not a small expense. After arriving at the selection hall, it was more like a planet than a hall. Just like the core hall, a planet was specially divided as a location. The huge selection hall had many layers inside and outside, with a constant flow of people coming and going. Their cultivations were basically at the Star Lord level. There was no Sage King level cultivator. Basically, these people were not qualified to come here. At least, they needed to be at the Star Lord level to be qualified. If one didn't know better, he would think that so many people had the selection token. In fact, there were several ways to exchange in this selection hall. Either it was the selection token, or it could be exchanged with contribution points. Of course, the crudest way was to exchange with currency. The currency of the divine realm was a kind of energy stone called Star Stone, which was similar to those spirit stones. However, it contained rich star power, which could be used to refine weapons. However, the most important thing was to use it for cultivation. Among them, using Star Stone to exchange was the worst. The price was far higher than other methods. It was not cost-effective. Therefore, most people used contribution points to exchange, and only a few used the selection token. The difference between contribution points and the selection token was that the selection token could be given to others, but the contribution points could only be used by oneself. In a sense, the selection token was the most valuable. However, it was slightly more expensive. After all, it could be given to others. After entering, the outermost hall was divided into many areas. They were the weapons area, the martial techniques area, the defensive equipment area, the medicinal pills area, the spirit herbs area, and so on. There were many areas, and each area had items of the corresponding grade. For example, in the outermost hall, the lowest grade was a heaven grade martial technique. There were also divine tool grade weapons with corresponding prices. There were also clearly marked prices, such as how many starstones or contribution points were needed. The selection token was not effective here, as it was used for comparison. Tianyun looked around and saw many people exchanging nearby. He was not interested in this place, so he raised his foot and walked in. When he passed through this hall, the area inside was similar to the outside. However, the items inside were worlds apart. Among them, one could exchange for Samsara grade martial techniques, Samsara grade weapons, and so on. However, the prices were extremely shocking. For example, an inferior grade Samsara grade weapon required 20 selection tokens. He only had 3, so he could not exchange for it at all. Chapter 9-10. The election platform was very obvious. It was right in the center of the hall. There were 3 election platforms at the same time, divided into 3 levels: low, medium, and high. Each level required an election token or corresponding contribution points to exchange. The low level required 1 election token or 100 contribution points. The medium level required 2 election tokens or 200 contribution points. The high level required 3 election tokens or 300 contribution points. 100 contribution points did not seem to be a lot, but it was extremely difficult to obtain. Unless one completed a difficult task, it was basically 1 or 2 contribution points. This meant that one had to complete hundreds or even 50 tasks to exchange for 1 election platform. The high level of difficulty might be above 3 or 4 points, or 5 points was the highest. Even then, one would need to complete 20 tasks to be able to get on the election platform. Correspondingly, the high level of difficulty would be accompanied by many dangers. One might die on the way. The heavenly mandate divine realm would not be responsible for this. If one died on the way, it would have nothing to do with them. Imagine 100 contribution points was equal to 1 election token. This meant that if one wanted to get the reincarnation level weapons on the side, one would need 2,000 contribution points to exchange for them. After all, one needed 20 election tokens to exchange for them. However, few people would directly exchange for them. That was the behavior of the rich. Most of them came here for the election platform. There were 3 election platforms in front of them. The low-level election platform had the most people. Thousands of people surrounded it. Only 10 people could get on at a time, so they had to line up one by one. On the medium-level election platform, there were fewer people. There were still hundreds of people waiting on the side. The election platform had the least people. It could be said that there were only dozens of people waiting on the side. The election platform was a kind of test. The difficulty of each election platform was different. After completing the test, the treasure of one's choice would come out. In the normal level, one could choose any treasure of the reincarnation level. In the medium level, one could choose any treasure of the reincarnation level. In the high level, one could choose any treasure of the reincarnation level. This was an extremely profitable method. One choice token could allow one to choose a low-grade samsara level treasure that they liked. After all, it was something that could be exchanged for more than 20 tokens. How could it not be profitable? In reality, everything was bullshit. If it was that easy to earn, the selection hall would have collapsed a long time ago. Damn it, I failed again. This is the 8th time and I still can't pass the test. It's too difficult. The cultivator who was meditating shook and woke up. He began to curse loudly. Your 8th time is nothing. I've already tried 16 times, and I haven't succeeded even once. If that's the case, I might as well save up in exchange for a weapon. The other one scowled miserably. After thinking about it carefully, he realized that if he continued to save up for a while, he would be able to exchange for it directly. Etianyan revealed a smile. This voting platform was just that exciting. In order to obtain treasures, one had to pay the price. One needed to be very strong to obtain them. Otherwise, why would he be able to choose more than 20 tokens worth of treasures with just one choice token? The heavenly mandate divine region was not a fool. This was not only a way to retrieve tokens and contribution points, but it was also a way to test their abilities. Similarly, it was the same for the previous ones. The price of a mid-grade reincarnation level treasure was even more terrifying. It required at least 50 tokens. Now only 2 choice tokens were needed. Who wouldn't be tempted? No matter what, they had to try one more time. Unexpectedly, they plunged in and found that they had gone further and further. In total, they had spent dozens of tokens, or even more than 70 or 80 tokens. After all, it could be exchanged with contribution points. It was not surprising to have such a number. But when they realized it, they found that they had already lost a lot. No wonder Captain Goose said that it depends on their abilities. Etianyan shook his head. One choice token could be exchanged for something here, but it was limited to a mid-grade divine weapon. The number of top-grade divine weapons was more than that. To put it bluntly, the choice token was very valuable, but it was limited to the voting platform. It could not be exchanged for anything else. The elders also thought so. Giving him the choice token was to let him try 2 more times on the primary voting platform. It would be very good if he could get a low-grade reincarnation level treasure. But there was a problem. No matter what level, after getting it once, it could not be obtained again. If he could get it all the time, he would have to try on the primary voting platform all the time. The heavenly mandate realm would suffer a great loss. Therefore, he could only participate once at most. There was no more. Even so, being able to obtain 3 treasures from each of the 3 choice stages was already quite satisfactory. Tianyan glanced at it casually and lifted his foot to the 3rd place. He did not choose the primary voting platform, nor did he choose the intermediate voting platform. He directly chose the advanced voting platform. Now he had 3 choice tokens. He could directly choose the highest voting platform, but whether he could succeed or not was another matter. It should not be a big problem for him to choose the primary voting platform steadily, but it was another matter for the advanced voting platform. It was not that he liked challenging the high voting platform, but the test given by the voting platform must be decided by cultivation. It was not fixed to arrange a certain level of cultivation to fight. Different voting platforms had different ranges. However, the dozens of people on the edge of the advanced voting platform were all at the Lord of Earth realm. Any one of them was much stronger than him. Xiao Chun had just appeared, but when someone noticed him, he immediately frowned and said, "You are a human. What are you doing here?" There were no humans among the dozens of people here. There were only a few human cultivators on the intermediate voting platform. There were slightly more people on the primary voting platform, but they were still in the minority overall. On the other hand, there were more people from the other races. This was very awkward. "I'm here to participate in the test. Is there a problem?" Tianyan asked indifferently. As he said this, the group of people in front of him who were waiting to take the test looked over and sized him up. Some of them even laughed. He is only a 7th or 8th layer star venerate, and he dares to come to the advanced voting platform. Isn't this the behavior of an idiot? Fool! Let this elder brother advise you out of goodwill. Quickly go back to the primary voting platform. You are just wasting the voting platform token here. Hehe. What's the point of advising him? If he really wants to try, just let him come. At that time, he won't even have tears to cry. The 300 contribution points that he worked so hard to accumulate will be gone just like that. All of them looked at him with mocking expressions, like they were looking at a fool with a lot of money. Chapter 9:11. Tianyun's tone made them even more unhappy. "Boy, do you want to die?" Chen Baihan's eyes shot out a cold light, as if he wanted to pierce Tianyan. "Of course I don't want to die. I just want to say, what's wrong with participating in this high-level election?" Tianyan was not afraid of him. Instead, he looked Chen Baihan up and down. Chen Baihan's cultivation was roughly at the 2nd refinement realm, the same level as Captain Gu. However, he was much younger than Gu Yanlong. It seemed that he should be a disciple of the inner hall, not the core hall. Of course, it was also possible that he was a disciple of the core hall, but he was not very clear about his own affairs. He did not know whether the news of him breaking the record had been spread. Even if it was spread, it was normal not to know what he looked like. The human clan should have the awareness of the human clan. Can you go back to the primary election platform for such an arrogant thing? Don't dirty the advanced election platform here. Chen Baihan roared angrily. Now people around looked over. When they saw that it was a human who was cursing, they all showed an expression of schadenfreude. They did not know why there was a fool coming from the side. Even if he just looked here, he would be cursed to death. The most important thing was that the human clan was the most important existence. As long as it was a human, they would be cursed to death. Most people chose to reject it, because they would definitely be cursed if they came to see. "Oh, you make it sound so powerful. Did you build this advanced election platform? You said that I dirty the election platform. Have you been cleaning here all the time? If you don't have these 2 points, then move the election platform back if you have the ability, and I promise I will not look at it again," Tianyan sneered. "Boy, it seems that you want to do this the hard way. If you have the ability, fight with me, and we will see on the arena. I will let you know what you can say, and what you can't say. If you don't accept the duel, Then stay at home and don't come out and make trouble. Chen Baihan was angry. He wanted to beat Yi Tianyan hard now. But he could not beat him at will. There were rules in the heavenly mandate realm, and he could not do whatever he wanted. If they wanted to fight, they had to go to the arena. If they fought outside, they would be chased out. Yi Tianyan looked him up and down as if he was looking at an idiot and said, "Are you an idiot? I'm just here to take the test. What's wrong with me having the choice token? You're just an idiot. I can't be bothered with you." Yi Tianyan waved his hand. He couldn't be bothered to argue with him. He then looked up at the voting platform to see if it was his turn. As expected of a human, a coward. He looked quite imposing just now, but now it seems that he's just a coward. Chen Baihan was furious. Yi Tianyan's eyes turned cold. He looked at him and sneered. "Our cultivation bases are so different, and you still have the face to fight with me? If I was a 5th refinement Earth monarch, would you be willing to duel with me? Is bullying those with a lower level of cultivation what the Break Skies are capable of?" Chen Baihan was from the Break Skies, which was a very good blood pulse race. According to the blood pulse ranking, he would be in the top 20. No wonder he was so arrogant. After being questioned by Yi Tianyan, Chen Baihan looked glum. What Yi Tianyan said was true. Their cultivation bases were so far apart. If Yi Tianyan was a 5th refinement Earth monarch, would he dare talk to Yi Tianyan like that? He probably wouldn't even dare fart. "Brother Chen, how about I suggest this?" Suddenly, a young man walked over and patted Chen Baihan on the shoulder. He looked at Yi Tianyan with cold eyes and said, "He wants to participate in the high-level choice platform, right? Let him participate. It looks like he won't succeed. Let's see who can last longer. Whoever lasts longer wins. What do you think?" The difficulty of the advanced choice platform was too high. They all came here with the attitude of giving it a try. What if they succeeded? But most of them didn't succeed. The success rate was too low. This was a high-tier reincarnation class treasure, not a low-tier reincarnation class weapon. It would be difficult to obtain it. "That's a good idea." Chen Baihan smiled. "Brother Dong, that's a good idea. Of course, this way no one will accuse us of bullying. Even if there is a difference in cultivation, the content will change according to the level of cultivation." Dongfeng looked at Yi Tianyan and smiled. "What do you think of this idea? It seems fair to you, right?" Yi Tianyan looked at them and smiled. "I'm just here to participate in the test. I'm not here to fight with you guys. But it looks like you guys know I'll win. You want to compete with me? That's right. If you lose, you'd better get the hell away from us in the future. Kneel down and call me daddy. How does that sound?" Chen Baihan laughed coldly. "Oh, that's a very harsh condition. What if you lose? What do I get out of this?" Yi Tianyan smiled. "I'll lose?" Chen Baihan laughed. He looked at him disdainfully and said, "You're thinking too much. It's impossible for me to lose. Rules are rules. If you lose, not only do you have to call me daddy, but you also have to give me all your things. How about it?" A cold look flashed past Yi Tianyan's eyes. Since he wanted to provoke him, he had to pay a price. What a joke. What qualifications do you have to make me do this? Chen Baihan was immediately furious. He didn't think he would lose. But this condition was too harsh. He had to give everything away. It was too much of a loss. "You won't lose. So what if I have a little more?" Yi Tianyan looked him up and down. He smiled and said, "So you think you'll lose?" "How can I lose?" Chen Baihan was infuriated. He sneered. "Fine. Let's bet. I'm looking forward to you kneeling down and calling me daddy." He felt that if he continued, the people next to him would think that he was afraid, and that he would lose. This was something he couldn't allow. He could only bite the bullet and accept it. He still didn't think he would lose. His cultivation was higher than his opponent. His race was stronger than his opponent. Why couldn't he win? "Is that so? I hope you have the chance." Yi Tianyan smiled faintly. "You want to play with me with such an IQ?" He just had to dig a hole and wait for them to jump in. Soon the people on the top quickly retreated. They all had disappointed expressions. It was too difficult to get good treasures. "It's about time. When you two start, We'll start the timer immediately. Dong Feng was the referee. He was helping them calculate the time. When Yi Tianyan took out the option token, everyone was stunned. They didn't expect Yi Tianyan to take out the option token. Because most of them used contribution points, they were the same. They used contribution points and not the choice token. Chapter 9:12. Usually, only captains or those with a decent status could obtain an option token. Only those who have been in the position for a long time can get the election token. For example, Gu Yanlong gets an election token every 10 years. Of course, he also gets contribution points. The difference is that the election token is equivalent to an extra reward. He can give it to others or use it himself. There are so many martial arts and treasures here. Even the Lord of Heaven level can use it, let alone the Earth Monarch level. So now when Yi Tianyan took out the election token, everyone stared at him and had a few speculations in their hearts. The human in front of them is so fearless. Does he have a backer? But when they thought about it carefully, it seems that there is no human in an important position. Their doubts quickly disappeared, and they don't even bother to think about it. If there is no human in an important position, then this election token must be exchanged with some treasure, or with contribution points. These are all possible. In any case, there is no need to worry about these things. There is no need to worry about it. There is no need to worry about it. What they are most afraid of is provoking someone with a backer. Then they will be in trouble. Ding, triggered side quest past the election platform. Complete the election platform of different difficulty. Get different level of reward. Reward: 150 billion EXP, 5 million crazy points, 5 million proficiency. Reward: 100 billion EXP, 2,500,000 crazy points, 2,500,000 proficiency. Reward: 2,500,000 proficiency. Reward: 100 billion EXP, 2,500,000 proficiency. The rewards are halved. There is no doubt that the higher difficulty is more cost-effective. The corresponding difficulty is definitely not easy. Now that the task popped up, I almost thought that there is no task. Yi Tianyan shook his head, but he is still a little happy. There is definitely a lot of benefits for him. He needs to level up now, but he can't go crazy for the time being, so he can only climb up slowly. But he already has a preliminary understanding of the situation here, and roughly knows the direction to gain experience. For the time being, he needs to deal with the situation here, and then go to the Earth Monarch level. Are you two ready? Dong Feng looked at the two of them. They both nodded and quickly sat down to meditate. After Yi Tianyan threw out the 3 tokens, they disappeared into the air. At the same time, a divine light shone down from the sky and enveloped him. This way, the people around him wouldn't be able to disturb him, and he could focus on passing the test. Please choose the treasure you want. A phantom appeared on the side and asked them what kind of treasure they wanted to choose. There weren't many high-grade samsara treasures. In fact, there were only 3 samsara weapons in the area ahead. Apart from that, there were 2 reincarnation-level martial arts, but nothing else. This meant that there were only 5 treasures in total. There really weren't any more. In the vast heavenly mandate realm, there were only 5 upper-grade samsara-level treasures? Of course, it was not possible. The elders all had high-grade reincarnation-level treasures. But overall, there weren't many of them. In fact, they were pitifully few. After all, high-grade reincarnation treasures were simply too precious. On the other hand, there were many middle-grade reincarnation treasures. In particular, lower-grade reincarnation treasures filled many rooms. Chun Baihan also threw out a token. The matrix lit up, and after the contribution points inside were automatically deducted, a ray of light shrouded the area. I want the heaven-killing divine spear. Chun Baihan looked at the heaven-killing divine spear with burning eyes. His eyes were full of desire. He had always wanted to get this spear. If he got it, it would be like a god helping him. Everyone nodded. The heaven-killing divine spear was a very powerful divine spear. Compared to other things, it would be a little easier. Although they were all high-grade reincarnation-level treasures, the difficulty was different. Naturally, the less difficult ones would be chosen first. Of course, It didn't matter even if several people chose at the same time. Anyway, it depended on who had the most ability and got it first. Yi Tianyan glanced around and finally fixed his eyes on the two martial arts manuals. The two martial arts manuals were Heavenly Mandate Divine Technique and Raging Sky Technique. These two were the top martial arts manuals in the Heavenly Mandate realm. They were the most difficult to get. Basically, no one dared to touch them. There had always been rumors that whoever got one of them would have the chance to become a candidate for the Region Master, which meant the same position as Nian Xiu. Even if one didn't have that kind of cultivation, he could still become a candidate. This was just a rumor. After all, no one had gotten this martial arts manual. No one knew whether it was true or not. I want Raging Sky Technique. Yi Tianyan pointed at Raging Sky Technique. He didn't choose the Heavenly Mandate Divine Technique, but Raging Sky Technique. For a moment, everyone was stunned. Then, there was a burst of laughter in the crowd. Is this kid's head broken? He actually chose Raging Sky Technique? Even if he wants to admit defeat in advance, he doesn't have to do this, does he? Yeah, I thought he would choose the Heaven-Killing Divine Spear. Who doesn't know that the difficulty of the Heaven-Killing Divine Spear is lower than the others? How dare he play like this? I don't know whether he is a fool, or he doesn't know the rules here. I think it's more that he doesn't know the rules. He thinks that the martial arts manual is powerful, so he wants it. If it were me, I would also want it, but who can succeed? A fool is a fool. It seems that Chen Baihan will get a cheap son later. They all laughed. They thought that Yi Tianyan would choose the Heaven-Killing Divine Spear or some other weapon. Who knew that he would choose a martial arts manual that most people didn't dare to choose? Whoever chose it would lose. This had always been the rule. Now Yi Tianyan chose it. Under the highest difficulty, how long could he last? Haha, what an idiot. I'm looking forward to your expression when you kneel down and call me father when you come out. After Chen Baihan laughed, he didn't bother to pay attention to him. He quickly went into meditation, integrated his soul consciousness into the choice platform, and began the test. Yi Tianyan smiled and ignored him. He also integrated his soul consciousness into the choice platform, and began the test. When both of them were in meditation, Dongfeng immediately turned over the huge hourglass on the side, and the fine sand slowly fell. Such a huge hourglass could last for at least a few days. Whoever woke up first would lose. Humans are humans. This is just the beginning, and we already know who will win and who will lose. Dongfeng shook his head. He felt that this was really a joke. There was no suspense in this competition. At the same time, there was an ordinary woman standing on the side watching them compete. She stood in the crowd, as if she didn't exist at all. She just stood on the side, watching Yi Tianyan with great interest. Chapter 913. Come, let's place our bets. The human brat is 1 to 10, Chen Baihan is 1 to 2, the two are even, 1 to 20. As long as there were bets, there would be someone acting as the banker for people to place their bets. The cultivators seemed to smell the scent of money, all taking out large amounts of star stones, and placing their bets over there. I bet 500 star stones on Chen Baihan. I also bet 1,000 star stones on Chen Baihan. Ha ha ha, isn't this giving away money? I bet 1,500 star stones on Chen Baihan. All my wealth. All of them placed their entire wealth. They were extremely excited. They definitely wouldn't miss a bet that could double their wealth. As for those who bet on Yi Tianyan, they were pitifully few. It could be said that there were none. The banker's expression immediately collapsed. If Yi Tianyan lost, wouldn't he lose all his money? But this was the banker. He wanted to earn money like this. I bet 10,000 star stones on that human. That ordinary girl walked over, took out a storage ring, and placed it on Yi Tianyan's side. This action immediately shocked everyone. There really was someone stupid with a lot of money, the only one present to bet on Yi Tianyan. When they saw this girl, they couldn't be bothered to take another look. Such an ordinary appearance. Really no one would take a second look even if she was thrown to the side of the road. Haha, many thanks, many thanks. The banker beamed, looked at them and said with a smile. Hurry up and place your bets. Now that people have placed their bets, this human also has a high chance of winning. He started to encourage others to place their bets, this way they could recover some losses. Of course, in his heart, he was still very much looking forward to Yi Tianyan turning the tables. That would be a huge profit. But with his encouragement, no one was willing to place their bets. They would only laugh at this banker. Do you take us for fools? If he had chosen the heaven-slaying divine spear, he might still have a chance of winning. But now he chose heaven-slaying divine spear. This is simply courting death. Whoever chooses is a fool. That's right, well said. If he had chosen any other weapon, I might have bet on him, but choosing heaven-slaying divine spear, this is no doubt. It wasn't that they didn't want to support the human race, but because they chose heaven's wrath, they didn't dare to choose Yi Tianyan. The preciousness of violent heaven Ju was much more expensive than other weapons. These things could also be exchanged for with election tokens or contribution points. For example, the heaven-slaying divine spear required 5,000 election tokens to be exchanged. As for the heaven's fury art, it required 15,000 tokens. The difference could be imagined. Obtaining 15,000 violent heaven Ju with 3 choice tokens. Even if one used their feet to think, one would know how difficult it was. The Zhuang family was extremely embarrassed. How could he not see this? However, he still wanted to take a gamble. If anyone could determine the winner with a glance, what would be the point? The next scene was to place all their bets on Chen Baihan. They didn't care if the banker would go bankrupt. They just wanted to squeeze the banker dry. The Zhuang family had always been the blackest. Of course, they wouldn't be polite. While no one was betting on Yi Tianyan had already begun his test inside. Roar! A berserk cultivator was carrying all sorts of weapons. His eyes were filled with violence, and a berserk aura was released from his body. His combat prowess was off the charts. Berserker knows the illusion of violent heaven Ju. Cultivation. Peak starry sky realm. Weakness none. Overall combat prowess 5,800 star power. With the addition of a superior grade reincarnation grade martial art, their combat prowess was as high as 5,800 star power, far surpassing existences of the same level. Previously, those 8th stage starry sky realm cultivators only had over 3,000 star power. Now these guys had reached 5,800 star power. The effects of their martial arts were truly shocking. However, this was only limited to illusions, and it was based on Yi Tianyan's cultivation. His cultivation was 8th stage starry sky realm. Then he would increase it by 2 levels, reaching the peak starry sky realm. If he was an earth monarch, he would definitely increase it by 1 or 2 levels. Then his combat prowess wouldn't be that simple. 5,800 star power is too weak. Yi Tianyan shook his head. Only he could say such words. He didn't need to rely on any crazy attacks to crush them. However, those titles couldn't be used anymore, which was a pity. Otherwise, he could just casually take out a title, and it would be enough to crush them. Violent cloud. The illusion smashed down from the sky without hesitation. The high-grade divine tool in its hand swung down fiercely, and its combat prowess skyrocketed. After using the power of this martial art, its combat prowess soared again, reaching 13,000 star power. Yi Tianyan's eyes lit up. This is the true power of violent heaven Ju, increasing its combat prowess by almost 3 times in one go. However, this was just an illusion. If it was a real powerhouse, it would probably be even stronger. Interesting, but it's a pity that you met me. Yi Tianyan's eyes flashed, and he suddenly kicked the illusion. Shocking heaven Ju. The berserk dragon god bloodline and shocking heaven Ju superimposed to form a perfect match. With a fierce kick, the berserker was directly stomped into powder with a loud boom. Ding! Successfully killed berserker. Reward: 1. For billion EXP, 300,000 crazy point. Ah, I get EXP? Yi Tianyan's eyes lit up. He thought it would be the same as killing the illusion before. He didn't expect to get EXP. Immediately, 2 berserkers appeared in front of Yi Tianyan, and as soon as they appeared, they immediately swung their divine tools. Their cultivation didn't change, but they used all kinds of violent heaven Ju's moves. Their combat prowess kept soaring, but no matter how crazy they are not as crazy as Yi Tianyan. Get out of here. Etienne's eyes flashed, and he kicked with his leg, throwing out a fierce shockwave, directly shattering the two illusions into powder. Ding, successfully killed Berserker. Reward 44. 8 billion EXP, 1,500,000 crazy point. Ding, successfully killed Berserker. Reward 44. 8 billion EXP, 1,500,000 crazy point. Under the superimposition of 32 times EXP and 5 times crazy point, it instantly exploded. This made him exclaim in delight. He didn't think that he could gain experience here. Before, he was worried that he didn't have enough EXP to level up, but now it's all EXP. If he continues to kill, leveling up will not be a problem at all. Come on. Come on. Etienne was so excited that he couldn't wait to level up 2 times in a row to break through to the Earth Monarch realm. Xiao! The surroundings seemed to respond to his words, and soon 3 berserkers appeared, and continued to smash him. He laughed and rushed up to fight. He didn't use any weapons, just his fists and legs are enough. Chapter 9:14. While Etienne was fighting fiercely inside, there were also many people betting outside. However, most of them chose to watch and didn't come over to place their bets. As for Etienne, there were still some bets. Those who would bet on Etienne were basically human cultivators. When they saw Etienne and Chen Baihan fighting, they all placed their bets in order not to look shabby. However, they didn't dare to bet too much. They knew what had happened. Who would dare to suppress their bets? Tens of starstones or even hundreds of starstones were already considered a lot. Starstones were quite precious. They could be exchanged with contribution points. Basically, 1 contribution point could be exchanged for 1 starstone. However, starstones couldn't be exchanged for contribution points. They were 2 different methods. In theory, the choice token was more valuable than the contribution points, and the contribution points were more valuable than starstones. It was clear from the price. Reincarnation-level treasures couldn't be exchanged with starstones. Contribution points and the choice token were required. The divine tools outside could be exchanged with starstones. The difference was obvious. Starstones were currency, but not absolute. Some things were valuable, but it was a loss to exchange them for starstones. For example, a divine pill that was helpful to oneself could be exchanged for starstones. It seemed like starstones were a lot, but the effect was far less than that of a divine pill. Hence, if one wanted to exchange for divine pills, he had to use divine pills of other levels. As for currency, it was not useless. It was more important in the auction. I wonder how long Chen Baihan can last this time? I remember that he lasted for 2 days last time. However, he still didn't pass. What a pity. He lasted for 2 days. Moreover, he kept fighting with his opponent. If it depends on who can last longer, he will definitely hide. By then, let alone 2 days, even 4 days won't be a problem. Come to think of it, it seems that Chen Baihan will definitely win this time. This guy is really blind. He doesn't even know who his opponent is before the competition. Rushing forward like this is simply courting death. All of them shook their heads and looked at the dealer at the side. Their eyes were shining. This was a great fortune for them. It would be doubled later. Just thinking about it made them excited. The Zhuang clan was like a prey that had been targeted. He felt goosebumps all over his back. He only hoped that he could kill the Zhuang clan. Not long after, the light enveloping Etienne's body disappeared. Then he slowly opened his eyes and 2 beams of light shot out. Ha ha ha, he's out so soon. It hasn't even been 4 hours and he's out. I told you this kid is going to lose. That's right. Banker, hurry up and pay up, we've won. It's too fast. I haven't even warmed my butt, and it's already over. This money is too easy to earn. One by one, they rushed to the Zhuang's side, wanting to get a share of the money. The banker's face was full of bitterness, and he could only prepare to take out money to make up for it. He had originally wanted to make a fortune, but now it seemed like he was going to lose his pants. Just when everyone thought that Etienne had lost, the violent heaven Jew on the side released a ray of light, which then rushed into Etienne's head, as if it was pouring the contents of the violent heaven Jew into his head. Ding! Are you willing to accept violent heaven execution? The system's voice sounded. Accept. Ding successfully learned the first 3 levels of violent heaven execution. And only the first 3 levels, isn't it a bit too stingy? As expected, it won't give out all of it. Tianyun shook his head. He thought that it could give out all of it, and as expected, it would hold back. Such a precious martial art, no matter how heaven-defying the disciple was, it couldn't be given out so easily. What if there was a traitor? The first 3 levels were already very good content. At least for those who were below the Earth Monarch realm, it was completely enough. Many cultivators who were preparing to take out money from the Zhuang's side were stunned when they saw this scene. All of them were dumbfounded, including Dongfeng who was at the side. As long as one wasn't blind, they would know that Tianyun had succeeded. The violent heaven execution had a reaction to him, and the contents inside were poured into Tianyun's head. Wasn't this very obvious? After obtaining the violent heaven execution, it wouldn't directly send down the martial art, but would only transfer the contents of the memory. Hence, it could be given to other disciples many times, provided that they succeeded in the challenge. My harvest this time is pretty good. Not only did my cultivation increase, but I also obtained this martial art. I guess I did not lose out. Tianyun stood up, feeling very satisfied with the current situation. His cultivation had broken through from the 8th layer of the star venerate to the 9th layer. Unfortunately, he did not break through to the peak. As Xiaochen continued killing, more and more berserkers appeared. First it was 1-on-1, then 1-on-2, then 1-on-3. Finally it was 1-on-5. After a few rounds, it ended. This was the test. A group of cultivators who used the violent heaven execution were known as berserkers. After killing several batches, Xiaochen finally succeeded. It had to be said that the difficulty was startling. If not for being a little tyrannical, he would have lost. When Xiaochen stood up, he discovered that everyone was staring at him in a daze. He immediately knew what was going on. Then, he turned to look at them and smiled faintly. I wonder if I win after I obtain the item. Or are you just competing in time? The faces of Dongfeng and the others twitched. They all believed that no one could obtain the treasure, which was why they were competing in time. If someone obtained it, it would be considered a victory. If anyone said that whoever stayed longer would be considered a victory, their head would be kicked. Based on this logic, as long as someone won, it meant that they had plenty of time. This way, he would be able to stay as long as he wanted, and winning would be a piece of cake. Oh, we won. Our human race won. Banker, pay up. Banker, pay up. That's right. We won. Our human race won. All of them grew excited and rushed to the banker's side. The thrill of winning could no longer compare to the thrill of Tianyun winning this match. After all, this was equivalent to a ruthless slap to their faces. Previously, they had looked down on Tianyun. Now that he won so easily, their faces would definitely be slapped swollen. One by one. There's no rush. There's no rush. The banker beamed with joy as he handed out the money. Those who did not know what was going on would think that he was a fool. Little did they know that he had earned big. With so many people betting on Chen Baihan, how could he not earn? Miss, here are 10,000 star stones. The banker handed the storage ring to the ordinary-looking woman, indicating that she should accept it. After the ordinary-looking woman accepted it, she looked at Tianyun, who was standing on the stage, and said with a smile, "Interesting. This is really beyond my expectations." Chapter 9:15. Tianyun looked at this ordinary-looking woman. The appraisal I clearly displayed the other party's information in front of him. As long as the person's cultivation was not heaven-defying, the appraisal I could easily identify her. At least her name could be displayed. However, he could see that Nian Xiu had covered her face. This face was definitely not her own. If she had used her own face, she would definitely attract a crowd. He did not expect Nian Xiu to come here. After thinking about it carefully, he immediately knew what was going on. Seeing Nian Xiu bet on him, there was only one possibility. She had specially come here to see him. How could someone who had broken Yan Xiyu's records in all aspects not come here to take a look? After the two of them looked at each other, Yan Xiyu did not speak to him. She did not say a word and turned to leave. She had seen what she needed to see. There was no need for her to stay here. There was also no need for her to expose her identity in front of Yi Tianyan. She thought that she had not exposed her identity. Little did she know that Yi Tianyan had already seen through her. Yi Tianyan shook his head. He was too lazy to care about her. He turned to look at the group of cultivators who were looking at him in shock. Then he looked at Chen Baihan, who continued to meditate on the ground. Looks like I have to wait for a while. I wonder how long he will last here? Yi Tianyan looked at Dongfeng and the others and asked. Dongfeng and the others were extremely embarrassed. They did not know what to say. Previously, they thought that Yi Tianyan would definitely lose. Now not only did he win, he won perfectly. Chen Baihan was like a fool now. He sat there and fought. It would be fine if he could obtain the heaven-slaying divine spear in the end. If he did not obtain the heaven-slaying divine spear, it would be embarrassing. One by one, the human clan cultivators looked at Chen Baihan as though they were looking at a fool. He sat there foolishly. He did not know that Yi Tianyan had already succeeded. Chen Baihan probably still thought that Yi Tianyan would definitely lose. He was waiting for Yi Tianyan to call him father. Yi Tianyan had nothing to do. He stayed at the side and meditated. He gestured for the others to continue the test. Everyone didn't know what to say. How could they say the sarcastic words they had said to him before? Where did this kid come from? He actually succeeded. Unbelievable. Is it really that easy to obtain the violent heaven law? It's possible. Let's try it out right now. Next, some people chose to try the violent heaven art, but they soon failed. Not to mention 2 hours, he didn't even need an hour to come out. All of them looked at Yi Tianyan with even more strange expressions. How could he pass such a perverted test? What kind of monster was he? Most importantly, none of them knew who Yi Tianyan was. Why was he so powerful? Time passed quickly, and in the blink of an eye, 3 days had passed. The light that enveloped Chen Baihan disappeared, which meant that he had finished the test. When it was over, he slowly opened his eyes, revealing a look of unwillingness. Obviously, he didn't succeed and still ended in failure. When he turned his head to look at Yi Tianyan, he found that Yi Tianyan was already sitting at the side. He jumped up and pointed at him while laughing. Haha, I already said that you will lose. Hurry up and call me daddy. He shouted so loudly that the people around him looked at him with pitiful eyes. It was an extremely embarrassing thing. But in the end it still happened. Chen Baihan didn't confirm the situation, and shouted these words. It was really embarrassing. Brother Chen, he didn't lose. As his good friend, Dongfeng came over and patted him on the shoulder. Didn't lose? How could he not lose? When I woke up, he was already beside me. That means that I won. Chen Baihan frowned and looked at Yi Tianyan. He said coldly, Kid, what are you still standing there for? Hurry up and get over here. Good son, hurry up and call me daddy. Yi Tianyan turned his head and looked at him with a teasing expression. Bastard kid. What nonsense are you talking about? Don't tell me you want to play dumb. Hurry up and get over here. Chen Baihan was furious. Play dumb? You ask them properly and see who's playing dumb. Yi Tianyan said with a smile. Brother Chen, he won. He successfully obtained the violent heaven incantation, and it only took him less than 4 hours. Dongfeng couldn't bear it, especially when he saw Chen Baihan shouting and yelling like a mad dog. What, he obtained the violent heaven incantation? This is absolutely impossible. It's impossible for anyone to obtain the violent heaven incantation. Chen Baihan roared in disbelief. For a moment, he couldn't believe such nonsense. Nothing is impossible. Could it be that they didn't choose to help you and instead helped me? Yi Tianyan sneered and said. It's time for you to fulfill your bet. Not only do you have to hand over the item, you also have to kneel down and call me daddy. Chen Baihan's face darkened. He turned his head to look at the others, and discovered that their expressions were indeed the same. Their eyes were filled with complicated gazes, and most of them were still in shock. Chen Baihan didn't believe that Yi Tianyan had obtained the violent heaven incantation. The others also didn't believe it, but the reality was right in front of them, and they had no choice but to believe it. What, you want to go back on your word? Yi Tianyan said indifferently. You said you made a bet before, but now? Are you treating your previous words as farts? Chen Baihan already believed it. He didn't believe that the others would stand by Yi Tianyan's side. There was only one possibility, and that was that they had really obtained the violent heaven incantation. But to make him kneel down and call him daddy, this was simply more uncomfortable than letting him die. I just don't believe it. Chen Baihan suddenly thought of something, looked at him and laughed sinisterly. Unless you duel with me and use the violent heaven incantation, I will believe that you have not really obtained the violent heaven incantation. Everyone was startled, and immediately understood what was going on. That was, he wanted to ruthlessly trick Yi Tianyan. After all, even if he had obtained the violent heaven incantation, he had just obtained it. How could he use it freely? The key was that the difference in cultivation was too great, and even with the violent heaven incantation, it would be difficult to make up for the difference in cultivation. How could Dong Feng and the others not know what Chen Baihan was thinking? But they didn't interrupt. They all knew what Chen Baihan was thinking. Perhaps they wouldn't lie about winning or losing, but they wouldn't care about such a sinister thing. Instead, they would support it. They still didn't want the human race to step on their heads, so they would definitely support Chen Baihan. Ignore him. The difference in cultivation is so great. How can we fight? That's right, we all saw it. We can all testify. Or we can let the guardian here come over, he can also testify. Yes. Ignore his provocation. These people are all hypocrites. Even after losing, they still act shamelessly. All of the human race were extremely disdainful of them. They couldn't even afford to lose. It was truly disgusting. All of you shut up. Chen Baihan pointed at them and said angrily. I am the one who made the bet. I just want to verify it. Is there a problem? Chapter 9:16. A duel to the death. When Yi Tianyan said this, everyone was stunned. A duel to the death was one thing, but a duel to the death? Wasn't this a bit too arrogant? No problem, I agree. Chen Baihan laughed, his eyes full of joy. Then let's establish the duel to the death right now, no regrets. He hurriedly told Yi Tianyan to make the oath, worried that Yi Tianyan would regret it. He didn't want this kind of problem to happen. Right now he wanted to ruthlessly trample Yi Tianyan under his feet. It was that simple. Don't agree, don't pay attention to his provocation. Immediately, someone came to stop Yi Tianyan, telling him not to be so impulsive. Although Yi Tianyan had passed the test, the meaning was different, and the difficulty of the test was different. Therefore, winning the test didn't mean that he could win. I am willing to accept a duel to the death, regardless of life or death. If I die, I won't hold him responsible. Yi Tianyan made the oath. I am also willing to accept a duel to the death, regardless of life or death. If I die, I won't hold him responsible. Chen Baihan also made the oath, and then a ray of light flew up. After the two rays of light merged together, the oath was officially effective. After making the oath, a huge shield immediately appeared between the two of them, enveloping them inside. A duel to the death could be carried out here. As long as it was in some large halls, it would be allowed. Some people really did have a blood feud, and it was impossible not to take revenge, so this kind of convenience was provided. The others shook their heads, feeling that Yi Tianyan was too blinded by victory. If the protector came to testify, no matter how Chen Baihan tried to deny it, it would be useless. But Yi Tianyan didn't choose to do so, and instead made a duel to the death, which made them feel that it was very unwise. I suspect that Chen Baihan will kill him. After all, the guy who obtained the Heaven Fury art has a boundless future. Hee. I think it's more that he doesn't want to kneel down and call him father, right? In order to not want to call him father, he will definitely kill that kid. Right, what a pity, the Heaven Fury art. All of them felt that it was a pity. That was an extremely precious martial art. Obtaining it would be equivalent to soaring to the sky. Who would have thought that it would be a life and death duel? If he really died, it would be a waste. Yi Tianyan didn't pay attention to the gazes around him. He looked at him indifferently and said, You want to feel the violent heaven law, right? That's right. Just use it and let me feel the power of the violent heaven scripture. Chun Baihan's eyes turned cold and filled with killing intent. A high-grade god artifact appeared in his hand as he prepared to sacrifice Yi Tianyun. Then you should experience it properly. Yi Tianyun's eyes flashed. He took a step forward, and with a boom sound, the dragon god's bloodline inside his body instantly erupted. A powerful force burst forth from his legs. With the speed boost from the ancient desolate equipment set, his speed immediately soared. With a xiao sound, he arrived in front of Chun Baihan in the blink of an eye and raised his fist to smash Chun Baihan's chest. The combat power of this punch soared to 26,000 points of astral power. He didn't even need to use any crazy damage mode to achieve such shocking power. Level 1 of the Violent Heaven Scripture, Violent Cloud. Swoosh! Yi Tianyun's fist created a terrifying tornado that swept towards Chun Baihan. It was accompanied by a terrifying suction force that pulled Chun Baihan up from the ground and sucked him towards the fist. At this moment, the combat power was tripled from the original foundation, reaching 53,000 points of astral power. The Violent Heaven Scripture could burst out 3 times the strength, but that was based on the foundation. It couldn't be built on the data of the ancient desolate equipment set, or it would definitely explode. Boom! Chun Baihan didn't even have time to react before the punch landed on his chest. His entire body was smashed into the ground, and his chest caved in. Puffed! Chun Baihan spat out a mouthful of blood. The violent punch shattered his ribs. This was under the condition that Yi Tianyun held back, or else his chest would have been pierced through. You can't even take a hit. I just threw a punch and you already fell? Yi Tianyun looked at Chun Baihan coldly. It had just started and it was already over. He was simply too weak. So what if he was a second refinement Earth Monarch? Under such a careless situation, he didn't even have the chance to release his strength and was completely crushed by him. Now that his cultivation had broken through, coupled with the addition of high-grade reincarnation rank martial arts, if he were to face General Long Tae, he would still be killed with a single punch. Chun Baihan was slightly stronger than General Long Tae, but he was still killed with a single punch. Dongfeng and the rest were dumbfounded. They had predicted that Yi Tianyun would be beaten up, but now it was Chun Baihan who was being beaten up. A single punch killed Chun Baihan, and it was the Violent Heaven Scripture. The power was incomparably ferocious. I admit defeat. Chun Baihan felt that he couldn't move, and the pain was unbearable. He couldn't even get up if he wanted to. He immediately begged for mercy without any backbone. He didn't want to die at all. You admit defeat? I'm sorry, this is a battle of life and death. There's no such thing as admitting defeat. Yi Tianyun coldly waved his fist, preparing to let Chun Baihan feel the Violent Heaven Scripture again. Father, father! Chun Baihan cried out. Looking at the berserk power in Yi Tianyun's hands, he was so scared that he kept calling for his father. I admit defeat. I admit defeat. I'll call you father. Shut up, I don't have a son like you. Yi Tianyun sneered. His fist didn't stop and continued to smash downwards. Stop right now. At this time, someone outside roared and glared at them. Stop right now. If you have the ability to continue fighting, then try. Father, father. You're finally here, save me, save me. Boom! Yi Tianyun mercilessly smashed downwards, and Chun Baihan exploded with a single punch. He couldn't be more dead. Under this berserk Violent Heaven Scripture, Chun Baihan was smashed into a bloody mist. Even if he had a heaven-defying divine pill, it wouldn't be able to save him. Hung! The man roared. He was scared witless. Ding! Successfully killed Chun Baihan. Reward, 192 billion EXP 5 million crazy point, 350,000 SPS. Obtain martial art flowing heaven scripture. Cloud spear, middle grade divine tool. Exploding sword, middle grade divine tool. Killing a high-level cultivator is different. Not only does he get a lot of EXP, but he also gets a lot of crazy point. You killed my Han. Do you know what kind of mistake you have made? The man was furious and looked at Yi Tianyun with killing intent. You're tuning into the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.